Okay. It this is insane. You guys, what is going on? It's just insane. I wake up and I have to spend 4 or 5 hours just to catch up on all the news. Tons of corruption being uncovered by Doge, by Elon, constantly. So many updates. Want to hit on that. Also, as we've known, there's major corruption with vaccines. This is really important to get Robert F. Kennedy in as the Secretary of Human Health Services or whatever. So let's throw out some disclaimers here. I don't know shit about shit, and nobody knows shit about shit. Okay, except the people that really know, the scientists, the people that have literally spent their lives looking into this. But what's happened is the terrorist organizations called the mainstream media and our politicians have indoctrinated people into saying that you're crazy, you're dangerous. This misinformation is dangerous to even question vaccines. Okay, so Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s hearing is, or I think the vote happens on Tuesday morning. This is super important. The corruption lies in that, and this just happens at a base level in universities. Universities censor speech. I mean, they are Marxist organizations. They create these ideologies, such as even, let's say, global warming, climate change, and then shame people. This is how psyops happen, media organizations, this is how indoctrination happens. You're shamed for questioning. Okay, and that's when red flags immediately need to go up. Okay, because if it's just that simple that the science is the science and the science is clear. When we saw the RFK's hearings so far, we've heard these types of statements and they're false, and it should immediately raise red flags. Here's why. There are literally tens of thousands of scientists, doctors who do this for a living, who throw up red flags and warn over and over again about the vaccines. And literally, the Nazi ass universities, the Nazi doctor organizations, the WHO, the World Health Organization, okay, that we just got out of. Well, these different organizations, that communist freaking organizations that oversee other doctors, will literally take away doctors' medical licenses for just questioning this shit. Immediate red flag has to be dealt with. Let's just take, for example, if the science is just so clear, we'll let it be tested and reproven and reproven. You can test it all you want. Let's just say that there was a bunch of doctors saying that, I mean, just pick something. Antibiotics don't work. Okay? Notice how that's not a thing, because if someone questions that, then you'll have other doctors come in and put them in their place. Here's how antibiotics work, and they can prove it, right? They don't care if antibiotics are the effectiveness of antibiotics, are questioned. They don't care, because you can just prove it with science. They do what they do. It works. Okay, so they're okay with doctors questioning the effectiveness of antibiotics, right? Because the science is 2 + 2 = 4. If someone tries to come in and say, hey, 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4, that doesn't threaten us. We can say, okay, let's sit down and have a conversation that, no, actually just 2 plus 2 equals 4. It's just a fact. All right. So when they shut down and censor speech, that's when you know something's wrong. Number 2, I'm just going to simply reveal what I could literally, again, just like all these other things we've been talking about, the J6 hoax, the voting fraud that happens, I could do 24 hours straight of just proving the J6 hoax, proving the voting fraud. And I can also do 24 hours straight of videos of doctors raising the red flag about vaccines. Now, that doesn't mean they're right. Okay. Doesn't mean they're right. But what it does mean is, whoa, this matter is not settled. There's a bazillion people, doctors, scientists, raising red flags. So anyone who tries to say that, look, senators who are voting on RFK Jr., that's not going to work. Sorry, the matter's not settled. It's not settled. So anyone who says that, you're immediately discredited. Sorry, it's not going to work anymore. We got to go back to the drawing board and hash this out. There's got to be freedom of speech, theories and hypotheses, and science has to be tested. It has to be questioned. There has to be ongoing debate. You prove, reprove, trust, never trust, always verify. Sorry, we're not just going to trust you that it's safe. The vaccines are safe. Sorry, we got to go back to the drawing board and re-verify. It's not going to work. So if you're going to say that, you know what? Maybe we ought to look into you for saying that. Maybe they have something to cover up. Maybe this Democrat who's with Trump, bipartisan, right? We should have some Democrat support, right? Well, what's the deal? Well, RFK Jr. is going to expose the truth. We're also going to be exposing the truth with the FBI, who's been terrorizing Trump supporters and Trump himself, who continuously says Trump's weaponizing the government against his adversaries. Well, yeah, we just got to deal with the Nazi browncoats who's been breaking the laws and attacking Trump supporters. Sorry. So RFK, is he going to be exposing the money that's being paid to these senators, such as Bernie Sanders, who really is showing himself to be what he is? Like he's literally ending his political career. Seriously, it's like big reveal. If anybody should be tight with RFK, should be Bernie, right? Bernie's a dude for the people. I mean, they have the same message in so many different regards, right? But RFK called him out, and then Bernie lied. Bernie got the largest number of donations in 2020 from the pharmaceutical vaccine companies. Straight up. So they have something to hide and they want to silence you. Immediate red flag. Sorry, it's not going to work. That narrative is dead. And it's funny that just go ahead and keep peddling that, because everybody's waking up to this. Like it wouldn't surprise me if 60, 70% of the people aren't waking up to the vaccine stuff. We know, I'm not going to focus as much on this video. I'm going to do another video on COVID specifically. That one is just, at this point, all but solidified. They've been lying to us completely. It's a fake vaccine, corruption to the core. But all the vaccines are highly questionable. And so anyone who says, for example, the science is clear, it doesn't cause autism. Sorry, I'm not a doctor, but we're going to show 50 gazillion doctors that disagree with that, or at least need it looked at. And so the message is not that RFK is anti-vaccine. The message is make vaccines great again, baby. MVGA. 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 All right. And question and test everything. That's really the problem. Freedom of speech, the First Amendment coming right out again. And this is how dopey the human population is, to actually be convinced to not question science. This is how much of a cult the universities have become, that they don't want their science questioned. Like, literally, science is questioning everything. Prove, reprove, prove, reprove, re-verify, re-verify, test, test, test. Will it stand up against the test of time? And then as time goes on, you build on that. They're literally doing the opposite, because the media and the universities are literal terrorist organizations. Let's just call it what it is. Indoctrinating the people with lie after lie after lie. And like a sheep to the slaughter, dumbass human beings just follow suit with narrative after narrative after narrative, indoctrination after indoctrination after indoctrination, to the point where, all right, let's be clear, all the way to the point where this type of nonsense happens. Okay? All right?
Get on the floor. Get on the floor. Get on the floor. Let's go. Get on the floor. Get on the floor. Get on the fucking floor. Stop.
Look at these dumb motherfuckers forcing vaccines on people. That's how stupid the human population is. To not question this, literally just sheep being led to the slaughter like a moth to the flame. The dumbass population responded to the COVID scam like a bunch of outright lunatics. The lunacy. We're going to be exposing the insanity of the human population. COVID was not a pandemic. A pandemic is when, like with the Spanish flu, which apparently wasn't even the flu and was also maybe created by scientists, which is weird. I don't know. I guess this actually wasn't a flu, but like at the time, if you got that, you had a 30% chance of dying. Let that settle in. A 30% chance of dying. That's a pandemic. If you get this, you're going to die. Okay? With COVID, it was 99.97% more did not die. So we'll double check that. Like less than 0.1% of the people that got it died. Something like this, like less than 0.1% that got it died. And look at the hysteria and the lunacy that people, and lots of people, by the way, were trying to call this out. And guess what happened? They were canceled. They were censored. They were literally called terrorists for not going along with this shit. Let this never happen again, people. It's so amazing that truth is being exposing all this nonsense and insanity. They shut down, they targeted conservatives, they targeted businesses. They did a whole lot of shit, and then they put the vaccine in us that has a lot of red flags. Okay.
Resisting. Where's the handcuff? I need a handcuff right now. Get his arm. I got it. Here, get the handcuff to the legs. I need a handcuff. I'm going for his left arm. All right. Oh. Stop resisting! Stop resisting! You will get tagged!
Look at this
will
shit.
get tagged! All right, right,
Just wait.
I got left
Look, this goes on for a couple minutes, and then they force the vaccine into the guy. I hope this is settling in, people. The corruption is insane. The corruption is completely insane with vaccines. All right. It's insane. There's no question about it. It's insane. The corruption is insane here. Okay. We know the Marxist globalist agenda, which is literally they just say to depopulate the earth. There's some wild shit going on around the world. Open your eyes. Just look at how Bernie Sanders demonized RFK when they were friends. They used to be on the same side with a lot of things. They were on the same team. All right. Now look at the Democrats and what's happening with Doge. With all this is like just this morning, we covered this last night. Mind-blowing, evil corruption being exposed. Doge is uncovering everything. Insane corruption. The corruption is insane. And sorry, like the cat's out of the bag. They're not going to cover this up anymore. The cat's out of the bag, thanks to the freedom of speech, the truth being revealed. And so, but they're still trying to cover it up. The nonsense with the vaccines, anyone that votes against RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, or Kash Patel, they are trying to hide in the dark and keep their nonsense hidden. It's as simple as that. It's the clearest, most crystal clear truth serum. It is the truth test to whether or not these politicians actually care about the people and freedom and what they taught, what they say versus what they do, which is corruption to the core. Billions and millions and billions and trillions and trillions and billions and millions and hundreds of millions and hundreds of billions and trillions and billions of dollars are already being exposed in the deep state. The corruption going on is mind-blowing. And it's what's actually just mind-blowing is how it's being revealed right before us every 5 seconds of the day. My phone is always blowing up with new shit getting unveiled, revealed, the corruption in the government, the corruption. Okay. And so what used to be considered some crazy psycho conspiracy theories aren't so crazy anymore. With the WHO, the UN, the World Bank, the World Health Organization, the World Economic Forum, the deep state, the Illuminati, the Council of just all the crazy shit. It's not so crazy anymore. In fact, if someone said we just got invaded by aliens and they've taken over the earth, that's really not any more crazy than what's just already going on in plain sight right before our eyes. And it's not even a conspiracy theory anymore. How about that? All right.
Thousands of tribal girls without proper study and paperwork.
India was among the hardest hit after Bollywood celebrities were incentivized by the Gates Foundation to urge the public to submit to mass vaccinations. In 2009, tribal children were administered the HPV vaccine. Over 24,000 girls were told they were being given wellness shots, in many cases without the informed consent of a parent or a guardian.
The people that were administering these vaccines lied to the guardians of these girls and told the girls, oh, this is going to cure cancer. You're never going to have cancer. And these girls became severely injured. Some of them developed seizures. Some of them developed cancer. And 7 girls died. And there was no insurance. There was no assistance for them. And the Gates Foundation denied that it had been clinical trials. And it was so bad that the parliament in India created a task force. They studied it and they kicked out the Gates Foundation.
So parliament in India, this is all fact, kicked out the Gates Foundation, and they're about to say why. This is not just somebody giving their opinion.
But India is a barbaric country. Things happen here in a very barbaric way. But I was surprised to find an American organization operating in broad daylight, doing things in a very, very, let's say, Indian fashion. And so the route I took was that I want the whole procedure to be investigated. The Indian Parliament formed a committee, and it was to me a rather surprising move because you generally don't often have such a high-level inquiry into matters affecting poor people. And that was such an extraordinary report. I don't think Indian Parliament has ever come out with such a scathing report. And
the Indian Parliament has never come out with such a scathing report. Think about, let it sink in.
The government officials came up and said, we shouldn't have authorized this. We're sorry. We're not going to allow them again. And now they're back doing their same old tricks again.
The good news is that human clinical trials can start as early as July 2020 for India's first COVID-19 indigenous vaccine that's been.
Okay. So the pharmaceutical companies, the BlackRocks of the world, the Fidelities, and they have thousands and hundreds of thousands of shell company, the corruption is all interwoven in the government. They're taking our tax money. They're taking our donations and doing this. Okay. They own the media. Like there's corruption. If I might go live again after this and cover the news about there's some coming out with George Soros. All right. That they're uncovering as Doge is deep diving into the insanity of this mess. It's so insane. The hundreds of thousands or millions of shell companies that are tied in with the government NGOs and the government payments and the corruption and okay. And that they're able to do this. The web is so insane. They actually in their mind just thought this will be such a shit show. No one could ever uncover this. It's hidden so well. Well, what they're using AI to uncover it. And they're able to do it rather efficiently. Elon, man. Okay. This looks like a COVID one.
22, it went up to, this is ages 1 through 14. In 2020, their excess deaths was minus 9%. In 2021, it was minus 7%. In 22, it went up to 16%. And in 2023, it's 22%. So it's
22% above baseline.
Above baseline. And what's interesting about this is the excess deaths of the UK children actually went down during 2020 and started to rise again in 2021. It's in my book. We showed the rise started when the magic juice started to be issued to children later in 21. What's interesting is you have to ask yourself, well, why did it go down in 2020? What's the biggest cause of accidental death for children? It's accidental. It's accidental. It's usually movement activities, falling into a pool, drowning. Well, there were lockdowns. So excess deaths went down during lockdown for children because of less activity. But sure enough, we've reopened. There's no pandemic. But now in 2023, UK children 1 through 14 appear to be mysteriously dying at an excess death rate of 22%.
That's even higher than I thought. I don't know where
That's the UK. It's different in different countries. But
Okay.
The UK has a problem.
Okay, so we're just scratching the surface here. That's COVID. I'm going to do a separate one on COVID. This is just kind of vaccines in general that we need to take a real hard look at what's going on. But let me just say this about COVID. I had a buddy die of a blood clot from the COVID vaccine. And I remember I was kind of saying, look, people, I was already super concerned about the vaccine, warning people about it, warning against the lockdowns, the human sex trafficking that's happening because of the COVID lockdowns, the corruption, the garbage, the science, the masking, which that's on the COVID video. We'll uncover that. And they were censoring, threatening me, calling me. I've been called a terrorist. And when my buddy died and I was outspoken about it, people, like even my sister, was like, oh my God, like they're concerned about the misinformation about this death. Well, just super skeptical, like they knew this is misinformation from extreme right wingers. This is how they do it. People are indoctrinated by the media and literally just let these vaccine companies. So first of all, COVID was an inside job created by us. That's a fact. We already know that. It's even been revealed this week from the CIA, and all this is coming out. Okay. That we created COVID in a lab, 100%, it's 100% true. It's not a conspiracy, people. No matter, but the media won't tell you that. So if you're indoctrinated by the media, you need a detox. And I hope this opens your eyes. We create, and then we just, like the Nazi browncoats, force the world to get a vaccine. So these same people, such as Fauci and Bill Gates, could make hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars. Let it sink in. You became their pawn, and they're perfectly happy, by the way, to sacrifice you. They create pawns. This is literally what the Soviet did. They created alliances, and so people that went along with and Hitler, same deal, people that went along with their Nazi communism, socialism, they were in their mind trying to move up and become prominent. But then when they got too big, they would just be killed. They would be sacrificed because they're now a problem once they're too deep in. They've been promoting, they've been a good soldier, and then they sacrifice you because they don't want their power threatened. You're a pawn if you're peddling the bullshit and not at least saying, pause. All right, let's look at this. Let's let the debate play out. Let's let the conversations and the scientists say, bullshit, the COVID's, vaccine helped reduce deaths, and look at this and that. And they have their science. And then another scientist says, no, it caused blood clots and did it. And the other scientist says, disagrees. And we let the dialogue continue. But the reason why they don't want that to happen is because the truth will be revealed. You see, they have a lot of shady shit to cover up. That's without question. All right. So we have one of the Louisiana senators that's on the fence with RFK. This man right here has a message for you, my man.
Do a personal invite for. I would like to do a personal invite for Senator Bill Cassidy from Louisiana to come review my daughter's autopsy report. He likes to use hypothetical 18-year-old little girls in his speeches, and I'd like to give him a real 18-year-old little girl that was killed by the mRNA poison that he calls safe. I would like him to come read about the thrombosis, the hypereosinophilia, the destruction of her organs, the bowel ischemia, the hell that my daughter went through before she ultimately took her last breath at 5:05 p.m. on November 9th, 2022, because she believed the bullshit that his pharma whoring ass keeps spreading. I would invite him to come tell me to my face that the vaccine was safe and that my daughter's life was meaningless to him. I would like him to say that to me.
There's a lot coming. There's a lot of this. So listen, if you're just going to sit there and say, we're just going to keep going and say that the science is settled, nothing to see here. Are you an anti-vaccinator, extreme conspiracy theorist? This is the bullshit that they're peddling. Listen, if you're peddling that, red flags are up. What are you covering up? That narrative's not going to work. You might even be right. You might be right in saying that vaccines are safe and whatever. But to say that these anti-vaccinators are dangerous is bullshit. 100%. You're crazy. You're delusional if you go along with that message. You are delusional if you don't want conversation, if you don't want the science tested and proven over and over again. You're covering something up and people are being indoctrinated. I do know that much. Even though I don't know who's right and wrong, I'm not saying I know who's right and wrong. The real issue here is freedom of dialogue, the First Amendment, freedom of speech, allowing doctors to be free in what they can say about the science that they're looking at. If you're trying to cover shit up, you need to be looked at. It's a crime. All the bullshit mafia, doctor organization mafia of this country needs to be looked into. You don't censor the speech of doctors and scientists who are doing research. It's evil. And anyone who tries to say that, sorry, you're out, you're done, and you need to be investigated. Anyone censoring speech needs to be looked at, investigated. Period. You don't censor speech from doctors and scientists. And tens of thousands have been canceled. They've lost their license just for questioning them. Evil, wrong, not going to work. Sorry, that ship has sailed. It's not going to work anymore. Wake up. You're going to have to come up with some other bullshit.
It's more likely to die than children. What if I told you that a vaccine was secretly laced with a hormone to cause infertility was given to hundreds of thousands of women and girls without their knowledge? What if I told you that a vaccine that was banned in the West for killing girls was pushed on African girls, making them 10 times more likely to die? And what if I told you that the man behind all of this, funding it, promoting it, has just had his legal immunity stripped in Kenya? This isn't a conspiracy theory. This did happen, and the evidence is undeniable. Bill Gates, through the WHO, has funded programs that have been exposed as dangerous, unethical, and deadly. And it's time the world started asking some very serious questions. In 2013, the World Health Organization launched a neonatal tetanus campaign in Kenya, claiming to protect newborns from deadly infections. But doctors started noticing something very strange. Many women in this vaccination campaign could no longer carry a pregnancy to term. Suspicious, these doctors took these vials and took them for testing in independent labs. The vaccines contained HCG hormones, a hormone vital in pregnancy, chemically bonded to the tetanus vaccine. These vaccines weren't just about tetanus, so what were they for?
We cannot afford to trust WHO anymore, Your Excellency. In 2014, 2015,
This is real, people. This isn't some crazy person. This is the government of Kenya proving what's inside the vaccines. Did you guys catch it? What she just said? What was inside the vaccines is preventing women from having babies. Eugenics, huh? I mean, that's a convenient tie-in here, right? With the WHO, the biggest problem in the world, according to the WHO and Bill Gates, who's just come right out and said his agenda is to depopulate the earth, is putting in hormones that causes sterilization in women, and it was proven. This isn't a conspiracy. And this is the Kenyan doctor who runs their country saying, sorry, we got to get out of the WHO. It's exposed. It's a scandal. Wake up, people. And they're still peddling this shit with RFK. We're going to keep getting into this. And again, I could show you videos for 24 hours straight, for 48 hours straight, and nonstop of a gazillion testimonies, a gazillion doctors. Okay.
WHO cannot afford to trust WHO anymore, Your Excellency. In 2014, 2015, WHO brought tetanus eradication campaign in our country. The vaccine that was used is a different type of a tetanus vaccine that is a fertility regulating vaccine, where they take tetanus and combine it with a hormone called human chorionic gonadotropin that supports pregnancy. And when you inject a woman with that vaccine, she produces antibodies against that hormone and therefore is rendered sterile.
So you guys, this has been right here before us, and they want to play you like the fools that you are, propagating shit that you know nothing about instead of questioning everything. If you haven't learned anything in the year of 2025, is that trust nothing, especially the damn terrorist media and the universities. If you've learned nothing else, trust nothing. I'm not saying that I have an opinion either way about vaccines. That's not even the discussion here, people. The discussion is they have engineered and wired people to become evangelists for their vaccines. Listen, you're a bunch of dumbass sheep have just become evangelists for vaccines and have shut down the conversation. Red flag. All right.
Noticing an increase in the number of infertility cases among young couples who you examine and they are normal.
So he's sterilizing people in Africa. That's what Bill Gates, that's literally his, and in his mind, I guess he's convincing himself that he's doing a good thing, actually, because the biggest problem in the world today is overpopulation, which I'll have plenty of videos on that. That's bullshit. We could have 10 times the number of people that are alive right now on the earth and be fine. It's lies. All right. It's not the number one problem. And if anything, and a lot of people are talking about this, we're in big trouble that we're not having enough babies. All right. These things just needs to be a discussion. Let's have openness and honesty. But they don't want that. They want to control the information. They want the power. They want to control the narrative and the information. Yeah, exactly, Steve. That's exactly right. So I'm going to do another video just for COVID vaccines. This is just all vaccines. And the message is question everything. That's all. The message isn't taking a strong stance against vaccines. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what Robert F. Kennedy is saying. The message is let's prove and reprove and continually reprove and retest the science and make the vaccines great again, if anything. And let's expose the money and the research and all the shit that they're putting in the vaccines, like mercury and all this whatever bullshit, like sterilization drugs that are purposefully put in, and all kinds of other bullshit. They're even putting shit in the vaccines that are like microscopic. You know, this could be used for good, potentially, like microscopic fucking nanonites, like machines that can. I don't have a strong stance either way. All right.
But cannot get children, or couples who are losing 3, 4, 5 pregnancies before they can carry any pregnancy to term. We were able to expose this, and we have even published a paper that is available.
But it doesn't stop there. Let's talk more about the DTP vaccine, the world's most popular vaccine thanks to Bill Gates and the WHO. In the 1980s, the vaccine was banned in the United States and Europe after studies showed it caused brain damage and even death. While it was replaced with a safer version in these countries, the older, deadlier versions were still being distributed to children in Africa. When Danish scientists studied more than 30 years of vaccination records in Africa, they found a chilling discovery. Girls who received the DTP vaccine were 10 times more likely to die than children that were unvaccinated. But these girls weren't dying from tetanus, diphtheria, or pertussis. They were dying from anemia, pneumonia, dysentery, and the diseases that the vaccine left them more vulnerable to. This isn't just about bad science. It's a pattern of unethical experiments on vulnerable populations. Vaccines that were deemed too dangerous for the West, pushed in Africa under the guise of philanthropy.
Okay, so we've got a quandary here, don't we? With these senators. You know, it's a problem if Bill Gates has secretly been, for example, like gave $50 million to Kamala and it just goes deep. They own these politicians, the WHO. They're in a little bit of a quandary, right? Because they got to get RFK out of here because they're going to be exposed. They're going to be uncovered. Quite a quandary. People, thanks to Elon Musk, freedom of speech, the First Amendment, the people have a voice now. The people have a say. They won't just get shut down. Marxism is losing. They're going down. It's too late. Google, YouTube, blocking this shit, blocking videos, taking videos down, censoring speech. Because oh my God, this is a problem. That this misinformation is dangerous, okay? It's dangerous. That's how these terrorist organizations have justified what they're doing. Joe Biden's very last words was he was really concerned. He's alarmed that these misinformation campaigns, the fact checkers are taken down. Oh my God. No fact checkers. No more censoring of speech. And now okay, we got to reprove our science again. Is it just a hassle to have to yeah, that's right. You have to reprove your science. Yep. Sorry. It's not, the science isn't finished on this. Yep. And you got to keep reproving and reproving. You can make that case. Hey, I'll fight for your right to say whatever you want to say. So dialogue, yeah, you got to reprove the science. The science is not settled. Sorry. No. And there's an army of 10,000 doctors and maybe more, 20,000, 30,000 doctors that disagree with vaccines, like a lot of them. And most of them, by the way, are not completely anti-vax. So you can't make that argument, right? So sorry. You got to, every single vaccine needs to be highly, deeply scrutinized over and over and over and be proven and then be proven again. You're going to have to keep reproving it. And there's going to be new science and new findings and better vaccines. Sorry. Yep. That ship has sailed.
And who's funding this? Bill Gates, the same man whose foundation controls much of the World Health Organization's budget. The same man who just lost his immunity for prosecution in Kenya. Knowledge is power, and this is why we must question the narrative, the motives, and demand accountability. Bill Gates and the WHO must answer for these actions, and we, the people, must stand together for transparency and justice. If you believe the world...
You see, Donald Trump has taken a lot of scrutiny from sitting down with Bill Gates for doing this AI thing, this whatever mRNA customized vaccine against cancer, apparently is what, and he second day in office, he did this big partnership. There's a side of me that's wondering, like, look, Donald Trump brought Bill Gates into the fold. Next thing we know, he signed an executive order getting out of the World Health Organization that Bill Gates is a big part of. He also he tweeted exposing Bill Gates on some other bullshit. Like, is he keeping his friends close and his enemies closer? I'm kind of wondering, is he going to be exposing these guys for, did Joe Biden pardon Bill Gates? I don't think so. He pardoned Anthony Fauci, who's also a big part of all this with Bill Gates, like hand in hand. And that Fauci's already been subpoenaed. He might have been pardoned. One of the things he wasn't pardoned for, by the way, is perjury. So there's that. I don't know if that means anything. He might still just be pardoned, but if nothing else, he has been so exposed to the core. He's donezo. Whether or not he goes to jail, that man is donezo. Bill Gates, this is exposed. This is a scandal that is fact that's exposed. He went after India and Africa. Nothing to see here. And this is just fact, not a conspiracy theory. All of this is absolute stamp it, rubber stamped fact.
The world needs to know the truth. Share this video and let's make this conversation so it can't be silenced.
Shout out to Liz Churchill, baby. Yep, I've seen this about 1 million times. Charge Bill Gates with murder. This is horrific. Yep. Right. How about Rand Paul? He's been talking about this for a long time, right?
Drug use and sexually telling.
And Dr. Rand Paul, by the way. Okay.
My kid to take a hepatitis B vaccine when he's 1 day old. You get it through drug use and sexually transmitted. That's how you get hepatitis B. But you're telling me my kid has to take it at 1 day old. That's not science. And so every person with a bit of common sense, even people who don't
resist vaccines should question this. That's what he's saying. And so, and most people are not 100% anti-vax. Again, that's not the conversation here. The conversation here is, why do you give a 1 day old baby or a 2 day old baby a vaccine for HPV? They say it will help prevent cervical cancer. Okay, but that is highly debatable and questionable. Number one. Number two, they say that they'd, as people grow up, we'll just forget to take the vaccine. Huh. That's interesting. That's an interesting take. Okay. Right? Could it be that they're making a lot of money on these vaccines and they've made deals and they're in all this? A lot of the just evil that Elon Musk is unfolding, a lot of the fraud, a lot of the spending, a lot of the covered up government spending from our tax dollars is going to these vaccine companies and pharmaceutical companies that apparently Bernie Sanders is against, right? These billionaires that these monster corporations. Oh, well, they bought Bernie. Sorry, guys, he was bought out years ago. We saw it right there, the way he bent the knee to Hillary, right? Did that not open people's eyes? He literally could have just told Hillary, look, here's how it's going to be, and set her straight. Because if he could have just taken his base, which at the time, would have all but guaranteed a loss to Hillary, he could have taken his base elsewhere. In fact, if you just listen to the messaging, he probably agreed with Donald Trump on more things than he agreed with Hillary on, but he was just bought out. They had a lot of common ground, Bernie and Donald. If you're going off of what Bernie spoke, what he said, but Bernie has been exposed, like career ender, that was eye-opening enough for a lot of people regarding Bernie. Okay. And the way he handled RFK was also revealing to many people. Hello? Okay. So he's saying it doesn't make sense to give a 1-year-old baby an HPV vaccine. Hey, listen, get out of here. If you're saying that's not a valid argument that should be discussed. Sorry. No, automatic red flag.
Don't resist vaccines. I vaccinated all my kids. I believe vaccines are one of the modern miracles beyond all pale. The Speckled Monster is a great book about the introduction of the smallpox vaccine in 1720 into our country. All miracles. But I'm not a one size fits all. It's not all or nothing. I chose to wait on my hepatitis B vaccine, and we did it when they went to school. Does that make me an awful person? Does that make me an anti-vaxxer because I questioned the government dictate of whether I do it? And I'm not speaking for anybody else. I'm only speaking for myself. But for goodness sakes, let's have an honest debate about these things. The COVID.
See, that's the real issue. They don't want that. Nope, you're a terrorist, Rand Paul. That's the message. And people go along with this. Like, wake up. Hello?
Vaccine. If you ask me my opinion, the reporters run up and down the hall and they say, you still anti-vaccine? No, I'm pro-vaccine. But on the COVID vaccine and on the COVID illness, there was a 1,000-fold or more difference between the elderly and children. If you don't acknowledge that, you're committing malpractice. You're showing your ignorance. If you say a 6-month-old must be mandated to get it, the science is not there. So all this blather about the science.
Which Anthony Fauci told him right there in Congress, you don't know what you're talking about. We're really going to break open the COVID vaccine nonsense in a whole separate video.
And says this and the science says that. No, it doesn't. The science actually shows that no healthy child in America died from COVID. Look it up. No healthy child died from COVID. And so the thing is that it's 1,000-fold greater. So if you ask me my advice as a physician, if you were 65 or older or overweight and some other conditions, I would have said, hell yes, I'd take the COVID vaccine. The risks of the disease were real and much greater than the vaccine.
Which both my parents took the vaccine and a booster and another booster, and they still got COVID anyways. Because guess what? There's medical findings that you're from even the evil, corrupt universities are now showing that if you got the COVID vaccine, there's studies that's coming out and saying this. If you got the COVID vaccine, you're more likely to get COVID. Nothing to see here, according to the mainstream media.
Vaccine, but if you ask me, should my healthy 6-month-old get it? See, these are the nuances you're unwilling to talk about because there's such a belief in submission. Submit to the government. Do what you're told. There is no discussion. There ought to be a debate. You're not going to let him have the debate because you're just going to criticize and say it is this and admit to it, or we're not going to appoint you. But it's more complicated than that. And this is why people distrust government, because you're unwilling to have these conversations. And go home, ask your Democrat young mothers, your Republican young mothers, if they're vaccinating their kid for hepatitis B, and they're like, well, do I have to do it on day one? It's this precious little baby. Is there science to say you shouldn't do it? Probably not, but it's my kid. You know, it's like, there isn't clear-cut science saying not to. But on autism, there's no good science of anything to show what causes autism. We don't know. It's a profound disease. I know many moms here and dads who have kids with autism. I know them personally. I've met their kids. But the thing is they saw their kids developing completely normal, maybe speaking 100 words go to no words at about 15 months of age. Now, there isn't proof. There isn't proof that the vaccines cause it. That's true. There isn't proof that it causes it, but we don't know what causes it yet. So shouldn't we be at least?
Yeah, okay, I'll go with that. Maybe there's not proof, but there's a lot of scientists and doctors that say that there is proof of that. All right. And maybe we should, hear them out. Maybe. And if they're false, let's prove it. Prove it. Let's have the dialogue, right? Hello? Anyone who doesn't agree with that is probably covering something up. Or you're just literally indoctrinated. You are brainwashed. Otherwise, straight up. And it's not going to work anymore. Sorry, we're not just going to blindly trust anything anymore ever again. Ever again. Never. Never again. Never again are we going to be silencing unless Hitler takes over, which is what they want. They want actual fascism to take over. Trump is not a fascist, people. Biden was a fascist. Censoring speech, controlling the narrative, censoring social media companies, taking posts down, not letting doctors and scientists share their findings if it disagreed with their narrative. Straight up, it came from the Biden cartel's office, shutting down all the Facebook posts, dictating Google, all this. The actual professionals, have fact checked this, and we find this to be no evidence that the vaccines, cause harm. Just whatever. Fuck off. Sorry. There's 10,000 doctors that disagreed, and you silenced them. You censored them. This is tyranny. It's tyranny. It's tyrannical. Terrorist organizations is what the media companies are, and these people doing this.
Least open-minded, we take 72 vaccines. Could it be? I don't know. But we shouldn't just close the door and say we're no longer, because we believe so much in submission, we're not going to have an open mind to study these things. And so it's sort of this crazy notion. Schizophrenia, I would put in the same notion. You have a kid who's completely normal to 18 or 19, and their brain goes haywire. How does that happen? It's the most bizarre disease. Shouldn't we be open? Could it be our food? It might be vaccines. It might be our food, but autism is more common. I don't know about the schizophrenia statistics, but autism is more common. Shouldn't we want to be open-minded? Instead, we're so close-minded and we're so consensus-driven that the science says this. Well, science doesn't say anything. Science is a dispute, and 10 years from now, we could all be wrong.
Yep.
We were told.
Science changes all the time. And you know what they always want to say is that it's just fact. Accept it, you climate change denier. Don't question my science. Like in the 50s and 60s and 70s, they literally taught in school of the global cooling, the next ice age that will extinct all of mankind. That, you know, that was taught. And then it went to global warming, and then it went to climate change. And the science, sorry, is not, it's all over the place. And there's a gazillion scientists and doctors and whatever that disagree. I'm not saying, what the hell do we know about actual global warming and climate change? We don't. So just stop. Let's let the science get worked out and discussed. But no, they don't. They don't want to. Why? Well, we do know this, that there's endless corruption because of global warming conspiracy shit. We know that much. Unequivocally, we know that. The money and the NGOs and the bullshit. Yep, we do know that. And it has major consequences to the betterment of mankind, to the golden rule of looking out for the best interests of human beings. It's them padding their pockets with bureaucracy. A lot of that. And then indoctrinating the people, saying there's nothing to look at here. This is the science is final. Global warming, climate change. No, sorry. Not going to work anymore. Nope. Now, obviously, 99% of the population, 99% of Republicans, at least maybe 100%, we're not looking to destroy the earth and just. I would argue that it's actually the leftists that are peddling this shit that are destroying the environment. Like, just look at the California fires, the whatever CO2 of just from that fire undid 10, 20, 30 years, decades of all their bullshit solutions. It's all undone, all of it, just in that one fire. Get out of here with your nonsense. We know you're full of shit. Sorry, not going to work. Let's be common sense about this. Like, such as Elon Musk, who actually says he could create in one location enough solar power to have enough electricity for the entire nation of the United States. Like in one, did he say square mile even? Or maybe it was 100 square miles, something like that. He could have enough electricity for the whole country. Is what Elon says. Right? So Elon's actually doing things that could, but I think he would even question, he's okay with that being questioned. You see that? He's not campaigning to Trump to do away with gasoline cars, even though he has the #1 electric car company. He's not trying to do away with gasoline cars. He's just doing his thing, making electric cars. Hello? But if they were Democrats, you can take it to the bank that he would be campaigning to outdo radical shit, get all the factories out of here. We're going to outlaw gasoline cars. Oh, that's when you know it is to pad his own pocket, but he's not doing that. All right.
In the beginning, 20 years ago, they did this enormous study and they said everybody over 50 should take an aspirin. I thought, well, that's a pretty good idea. It makes sense. But you know what? 20 years later, they measured it and they found if you had no heart disease and you were taking aspirin, your chance of dying from a brain bleed or from a stomach bleed were greater than the risk of heart disease. If you have heart disease, they still say take an aspirin. If you don't, they've changed their mind 20 years later. But would you have all said I was crazy and I should no longer be in public discourse if I had said 20 years ago, I don't feel like taking an aspirin. I ride my bike all the time. I'm afraid I might hit my head. But that's what country's about. It's what dissent is about. So just ask you to look at the larger picture and give the guy a break who says, I just want to follow the science where it leads without presupposition. I think really what we have up here is presupposition. You've already concluded. It's absolute that autism isn't caused by it. We don't know what causes autism, so we should be more humble in what we say.
That is so well said. That's just obvious. Hello? Maybe vaccines do cause autism. There's a lot of studies that show, for example, the Amish who don't get vaccines have like 0% autism, apparently. Well, there's a rebuttal to that. All right, let's hear it. Let's let the debate play out. They say that there's like 1 in 10,000 or whatever. 1 in 10,000 people had autism in the 70s. And now it's 1 out of every 36. Okay, let's hear both sides. The one side says, well, we just weren't diagnosing autism back then. That's why. Okay, well, then there's a rebuttal to that. So let's let the debate play out. Hello? And to all the thousands of scientists that say that autism is caused by vaccines, and let's test their science. Let's take a look at this. Let's examine it. They don't want it examined. That's when you know, okay, I see what's going on here. Yeah. They don't want their science tested. That's anti-science. Hello? You realize it's anti-science to not want your science to be tested. That's literally opposite of science. That's what the oligarchies did when people tried to say the earth was round, apparently. Or the Catholic Church, did they do that? Or somebody like killed people at the stake for saying the earth is round. Same shit over and over. Same shit, different story. You see what's going on, people? We're being played.
Sorry, I didn't get to a question.
Yep. So a lot of people have their eyes opened to this. Here's Rand Paul again. All right. Senators that took money from Big Pharma belong in prison. And I don't disagree with this. Some doctors were making at least $1,000 to $10,000 by pushing these vaccines. It's very wrong. The myocarditis and pericarditis reports, some don't know how to talk about the fact that they don't feel right in their chest.
We made it unethical. There's all the money, the monetary influence of Big Pharma on politicians, but then there's the Big Pharma contributions in the form of advertising that goes to news channels. So those news channels are very biased in favor of one opinion because of the advertising. But then it's even worse. We now pay doctors directly to give vaccines. Yeah. And we got away from this when I started my training.
So doctors are getting paid by the government to get vaccines, huh? Nothing to see here. No corruption. Hey, and so it's like not Bill Gates and the pharmaceutical companies and BlackRocks and Fidelities and WHO that are giving money to the politicians that then write a bill to then pay doctors for giving out vaccines. That's happening right now. And so this gal knows what's going on here, whatever her name is. She was going to be Robert F. Kennedy's VP. Okay, she's just coming right. She knows what's going on. She's just saying, look, you shady ass senators, you're on my radar. If you vote against Robert F. Kennedy, your career's done. I'm going to dedicate my life to going after you. Well, it's because they're corrupt. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We all know Robert F. Kennedy. He really, in spite of what Bernie said here, he actually hasn't changed his message. They tried to make his hearing about abortion and throw a bunch of red herrings out there. Why don't we want people that disagree about abortion to work together? We don't want that. We don't want a Democrat working with Trump. That's nonsense. That's lunacy. That they're trying to say, they were trying to demonize Bobby Kennedy for being pro-choice when they themselves are pro-choice. And the job that Bobby Kennedy is going to be doing isn't really, that's like a side issue. His vision and his passion make our food healthy. I'm going to do a video on the food shortage epidemic that's right around the corner. The the problems with meat, with chickens, with cows, with the hog farms that's going on. Also, that, by the way, Bill Gates is big time behind buying up all the land and all the farms, and they're putting the small farms out of business. All the nonsense going on. If a farm doesn't want to sell, we've got, you know, your George Soros of the farming world going after these guys and making them go bankrupt on purpose. Okay. And then they buy their farm at even at a foreclosure price. This is happening like crazy. It needs to be exposed. We've got the pesticides and the whatever, the Monsantos of the world that do the genetically modified engineering of the corn that we eat, apples, and whatever else. They're genetically modifying our food. They're putting preservatives, the red dye, all the poisons that go into our food. Okay, the vaccines, that making sure we make vaccines great again, the food, our diets, our health. That's what Bobby Kennedy, that's his mission, his life mission, his whole life. That his message hasn't changed. Bernie, fuck off when you're trying to make abortion the issue. Corruption to the core. People, wake up, people. Are you not seeing these politicians for who they are? Wake up. You're being played. You're being played if you actually think Bernie gives a fuck about you, that he's for the little people, that he's fighting. Bernie, listen, Bernie's not fighting against the billionaires. He's teamed up with them and he's duping you into, he's a multi-millionaire. He's worth millions, tens of millions of dollars. Hello, himself. He's corrupt. He's bought out. He's owned. Like, just open your eyes and do a little bit of research and you'll find that. We're no longer duped into thinking that Bernie's just a good old school socialist guy. Nope. Listen, trust nothing, question everything. That goes even for Donald Trump and Elon Musk themselves. Trust nothing, question everything. You look at what they do. Don't look at what they say. Don't look at what they say. Look at what they do. Wow. I mean, just an amazing thought there, isn't it? Just look at what they do. Look at what Donald Trump does. Maybe your sensibilities and your feelings got hurt by some crazy shit that Donald Trump said. Well, so what? Look at what he does. Everything he's doing is following the golden rule, making it happen. He is Mr. Make It Happen. He's the Tasmanian devil. He's a bull in a china shop to these evil politicians. You can criticize Elon Musk for whatever you want to criticize him for. He's made speech free. He's come out of the darkness and joined the light. You can't deny it. Is he a human being? Maybe he's made mistakes. Maybe. Yeah, sure. So let's talk about it. But, you know, this is just obvious. So she knows what's going on here. She's calling him out. Hey, I know. We all know you guys are bought and owned, not by the people, Bernie. Nope, not by the average working class people. That is a lie. I can't even believe he had the audacity to even go there, right? Like, hello, squeeze the 4 inches of sponge between your ears, Bernie. Maybe that's a topic you should avoid, right? Because there's free speech now. You can't cover that up anymore. Like, we all know, thanks to Elon and X, that where your contributions are coming from. Like, we know that. There's more news that came out this morning. I bet there's like 5 more pieces of breaking news that's come out since I've just started this video. Okay. That's how much is coming out and being exposed. politicians, that there's more coming out with Biden and it's just coming right out. Biden was selling secrets to China and then getting paid for it. Nothing to see here. Of course, we've always known that's going on, but it's just actually being proven now. Thanks, Elon. He's just he's exposing both the Republicans and the Democrats. How about that? There's some questionable things happening with the Republicans too. He's not aligned with the party. They're not owned. They're not bought out. They're just, you can just tell, just look at Elon. He's got a passion for what he's got a passion about. And his passion is to like help humanity and go to Mars and be a good person and help the world. That's his passion. He's like a kid in a candy store. He just gets all giddy and excited about it. He's already made his tens of billions of dollars, and he's going to keep making more because he just makes it happen. But he doesn't care about his money. Zero to do about his money. He literally just doesn't even care.
There was many dinners and things that were legal to go to, and the big pharma came in and bought dinners for residents and young doctors who weren't making much money. They finally went away from that, and it's actually, if not illegal, we made it unethical, so doctors can't accept it, and big pharma pretty much doesn't do those things anymore. But I think it's equally as insidious or worse that they actually pay direct cash now for doing vaccines on children, which really, I think the science isn't good for the COVID vaccine, because the death rate is essentially zero for healthy children. And because even the hospitalization rate is close to zero for healthy children for COVID. And that was even in 2020. Now it's getting closer and closer and closer to zero, because kids just, almost every kid's had this, and kids just don't get, it's hard to tell when a kid has had COVID because they just don't get very sick. But you know, we've had this evolution of things, and yet still we're paying doctors money, and it's not an insignificant amount. I think some of the doctors were making in the at least the thousands of dollars, maybe not tens of thousands of dollars on vaccines by pushing them. And that's not right.
It's very wrong. And you know, these kids, the myocarditis and pericarditis reports, some of these kids don't even know how to talk about the fact that they don't feel right in their chest. And so it's hard for them to communicate.
Okay. All kinds of stuff keeps coming out. All right. It gets crazy. All right.
Kennedy jumped up and down and said there's mercury in these vaccines, and I don't know that it's safe. And they said, you're crazy. It's totally safe. You're a nutcase. And what wound up happening? They took it out. And we went to all of Bobby Kennedy's critics who said, he's got this problem with mercury in the vaccines. Mercury is totally safe. It's safe. It's safe. And then Bobby Kennedy came out and he explained this all on our show about how it was methyl mercury that they were saying was safe, and they said that it was problematic, but it was this other ethyl mercury. And long story short, the one that they said was totally unassailable stayed in the brain of the monkeys that were tested for months afterward. He explains it all right? Good luck challenging him on the science behind the vaccines. The bottom line is they took out the mercury. That the same group that had been saying it's safe, it's safe, it's safe, it's safe, took it out. Not because of him. They had a closed door meeting and they said, you know what, let's remove it. But there's nothing to see here. There's nothing to see here. And then they put aluminum in these vaccines, which works. It's not exactly a preservative. It does something else for the vaccines. But that too is a potential neurotoxin. And then they said, it's nothing, it's nothing, it's nothing. Just shove it in your baby and don't give it two thoughts. But all of this is going on while the toxic stew that our children are swimming in was growing exponentially from, the pollutants in their water and the fluorine and the chloride to the pollutants in their food, to the pollutants that is on your sofa and the baby toys and the baby bottles and all around them. And Bobby Kennedy has been saying, can we just pause a little to figure out what's causing this? Why are the allergies doing this? Why are the ticks doing this? Why is the autism doing this? Why was this something you never even heard of when I was a child to something that is 1 in 30 now? And
diabetes, very common. It used to be that doctors didn't deal with kids with diabetes like ever, like one time in their whole career. Now it's common. Kids with diabetes. The morbid obesity used to be for children, like less than 1/50th of 1% or something. Now it's 6%. And then obesity in children is like, I don't know, what was it? Like pushing 20% or something, when it used to be like 4% or 5% or something. It's just, okay. The diabetes, autism, like we're just getting poisoned in our food. And okay, there's debates about all this. All right, let's have the debate. Some of it is just obvious. If like every other country in the world is outlawed, whatever, red dye, 40, whatever, maybe we should take a look at that. The F whatever Food and Health and Safety Organization says that that's misinformation. Well, fuck off. That's what the people are saying. And we need Bobby Kennedy in, who's just number one. Let's have this conversation and let the scientists talk and debate this out. Let's debate whether or not fluoride in the water is bad for us. There's a lot of studies that show that it's bad. Okay, maybe it's not bad. Let's keep the debate going. You test, you prove, you reprove, you test. Simple.
They look at him and they say, you're a kook. You're dangerous. You're dangerous. It's infuriating. It's infuriating to be standing on my side of the aisle with children or yours. And to just, and again, with God, thank God, perfectly healthy children, to say, why are you so determined to stop the questions? And the COVID vaccine is even a more
You guys see the issues here with Rand Paul, with Megyn Kelly here? It's just the First Amendment. You don't prevent doctors and scientists from revealing their science. You test it. If it's wrong, well, prove it wrong. And you let the dialogue prove itself out. You don't censor speech. You don't revoke doctors' licenses. Those people need to be looked at. Those people need to be investigated. Doing that. Straight up. They probably need to be in jail. You don't cancel people for speech, people. Fuck off with your canceling. Except maybe we can cancel people who are promoting canceling speech. I'm okay with that. Canceling people who are anti-First Amendment. I'm okay with that. Because they're probably trying to cover shit up.
Persuasive case where you've got young boys,
Totally.
15-year-old boys
I mean,
with
it's just
myocarditis dying, and they won't acknowledge it.
Nothing to see here. I mean, no, the kids are healthy. We found other science that say otherwise. Okay, well, let's have the conversation. After extensive research, Dr. Pierre Corey has done an entire U-turn on the childhood vaccine schedule. The overstating of the efficacy and the miracle of these vaccines is a myth. Safety has never been shown. Safety has never been shown. The idea there is no link between vaccines and autism is laughable. Whoa. So this guy used to be real pro-vaccine. It's mind-blowing to think of the lies we've been fed for so long. All right, here it is. I mean, literally, guys, we can go on for 24 hours.
The opposite
watching
is
this.
true. If you really
Listen,
but then
listen closely to this.
And I started to read books on the history of vaccines, and I found that these myths that were taught in medical school, that they're myths, they're not evidence-based. This constant refrain, and you heard it in the hearings about how smallpox vaccine rid us of the smallpox epidemic. That is completely false. The opposite is true. If you really look at the history of smallpox, the vaccine made things worse. And yet our history was written as if the vaccine cured that epidemic. Same thing with polio. It's another narrative and myth that we rid ourselves of polio. There's more polio-like paralysis in the world today than there was during the polio epidemic. And we know why, because it wasn't polio. It was mass use of pesticides and DDT that was causing paralysis in all of these kids. And you could
Okay, and then so people automatically say, oh, this guy's a conspiracy theorist. What the fuck do you know? No, let's prove it if it's false. Let's have the dialogue. That's a big accusation. There's a lot of people saying that polio was created by us again. All right. And AIDS, maybe they are conspiracy theories, but sorry, no more censoring speech, no more canceling doctors and scientists. Sorry. Nope. And if you try and do that, you're going to get canceled. If you've got science to prove that wrong, let's hear it. Let's hear the debate. They don't want to debate. They don't even want the debate to exist. Okay, well, automatically I'm going to believe this guy then. It's settled. Get these people out of here. If there's not going to be, because you're anti-scientific if you don't foster the debate and get proven and reproven and confirmed and substantialized, and you test and retest and you confirm and reconfirm. That's science. Period. Otherwise, fuck off. You're not a scientist.
See the spikes and waves. And also, most of the childhood illnesses, the deaths from them had literally plummeted to near zero by the time the vaccines for those diseases came out.
The death from polio almost was down to zero by the time the vaccines came out. I've heard that by a lot of people. So a doctor coming on saying, no, a conspiracy theory. That guy should get his license revoked. These other that's literally their response.
And yet, what are we told historically? That the vaccines eradicated child. No, it didn't. We know that now. It was personal hygiene, sanitation, water purification, getting rid of slums and the pestilence in some of the inner city neighborhoods that fostered and breeded these epidemics. And so vaccines had very little to do with it. And so you ask me where I am now. So that's one thing. The overstating of the efficacy and the miracle of these vaccines is a myth. Then there's the other side to it, which is and I learned this from ivermectin in terms of the censorship at the journal level, the propaganda that the journals play. But the burying of adverse events and the toxicity of these vaccines, they go hand in hand, right? It's safe and effective, right? So they propagandize both, and the pharma does this around every product. But the safety of these vaccines has never been shown. In fact, it's been suppressed. This idea that there's no link between vaccines and autism is laughable. Just laughable. There's immense amounts of data. There's no other explanation for the massive skyrocketing rise in autism rates and ADHD and allergies. They all parallel the explosion in the childhood schedule. So for anyone to say that there's no link, there's plenty of links. They've done studies comparing unvaccinated and vaccinated kids. There's a recent one in the last few weeks showing much higher rates amongst the vaccinated for all of those important diseases. So we know that there are really negative consequences to vaccination, but you never hear of them, right? All you hear is how effective they are and how safe they are, and it's an easy decision. Anyone who questions it, there's something wrong with them. They don't know the science. And that was one of the themes of this week. You heard senator after senator on one side of the aisle completely. Royce, I mean, I'm not saying anything that's new to you, but watching that, I literally felt, I could feel it, that they were getting paid to say that. The things that they were told to said, those narratives were like literally to say this to Bobby and to the American people. And they just kept putting out little pharmaceutical talking points, attacking Bobby. And it's really kind of disturbing to watch, Royce. I mean, these are the people leading our country, and they're bought and paid for. And
so here's a doctor saying it's insane to say that it's the science is final autism. To say that vaccines don't cause autism is lunacy from doctor. This is a doctor. You're going to find there's 10,000 other doctors that have the same science. Okay. And so then they just want to silence that. They don't even want to question it. Hey, misinformation, nothing to see here. These are wackos. Not going to work anymore, boys and girls. Bruno, I'm not quite sure what you're trying to say here. Not Not exactly sure what you're trying to say there. Okay.
Talking for corporations, it's sad to see.
And
okay. Yep. Okay. So he just slam dunk what he just said. That's just common sense. Common sense. All right, let's see what Candace Owens has to say. My girl.
That can prevent almost all and enrich himself.
Okay.
And enrich himself by
So
denying access.
This is like Bobby Kennedy's cousin, I think. Okay, and so she decides he's running for this position. And so she decides to come out against him. So hard here. And so there's one of two things going on here. Either, oh, okay, all the vaccines are made by Jews, just research. Okay. Is Bill Gates a Jew? Because he's like really behind it. I guess Anthony Fauci's a Jew, isn't he? Yeah, baby. All right. So one of two things. This lady is either A, so alarmed at the problems with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. that it's like it's in peril. We can't have this guy in. The problem is he's one of the most trustworthy guys we could imagine having it. He's got a huge track record. And so that's hard to believe. Otherwise, why did she wait until the night before the hearing to come out with this? She waited tactfully until the night before the hearing to come out with this. Why isn't there other history in the past with her talking about this? So my radar first immediately goes up. Okay, obviously they've had some family drama from the past. He's not even shy about it. He used to be addicted to, was it cocaine or heroin? He used to be an heroin addict, and he hurt some of his family members also who became heroin addicts as well. That was like 41 years ago. And then he turned his life around. And he's got like a good, I don't know, 30 plus year history with being an advocate for health and mental health and food safety and vaccines. And he's been preaching the same message for like decades and decades. Where's this lady been during that whole time? All right.
To a vaccine that can prevent almost all forms of cervical cancer and has already been safe.
Okay, now that we know is just lunacy. So that's false. He's saying, and along with tens of millions of other people, why are we giving this HPV vaccine to 1-day-old babies? That's what he's saying. And what's inside the vaccines, the mercury, the this, that, and the other, that, by the way, I guess they've taken out. Like for a decade, he was saying this, calling him a conspiracy theory, saying it's safe. And now they take out the mercury, I guess, or because why is it even there? Where's the debate? Where's the science?
Safely administered to millions of boys and girls.
This lie bothered me so much. You guys.
It's a lie. Okay, so here we go, Candace, because we know she was paid to say that for sure. Like it's almost for sure. She was just paid to come out at her cousin. Like that's dirty. Dirty, dirty, dirty. All right. So I knew that one of the potential red flags that I did have with RFK was that he's had some family problems in the past. Like a lot of his family doesn't like him, which is always a red flag. Okay. When I was looking at Donald Trump as in the past, that's whoever I look at, that's always kind of something you want to look at. It's just a factor. It doesn't necessarily write someone off, but you want to look at, like, are they a good dad? How are their kids doing? How is his relationship with his wife, with his ex-wives? You want to look at those things. They're just tells potentially. And so, all right. And so that was like, okay. He's done some questionable things in the past. He's got some rocky relationships within his family. Okay. That's a negative on the list of pros and cons when we're evaluating. But then she comes out with this, and it almost all but confirms that, okay, I wouldn't have a good history with my family either if she was a part of my family, because obviously she's corrupt as hell. I mean, that's my takeaway. So kind of like, well, maybe we can remove that from the con list of her shady ass family doing shady shit, because you can almost take it to the bank. She got paid to come out with this. Not for sure. I'm still all ears. She got paid for that video, people. Let's see it. The proof's going to come out, I bet.
Know my backstory of how I became anti-vax. I was actually one of the many women who were injured by the HPV vaccine, the Gardasil vaccine. Had a mini seizure right in the room, and they told me not to get any more of the series because it was at least a 3-part series. And so it was the thing that woke me up. So I did extensive research on this vaccine, and this woman is just out here lying. She's lying about the success of the vaccine. She's lying about, the amount of women that you will see that speak out about what happened to them after they got that Gardasil vaccine, because we were told that it could, as she is saying, prevent HPV, which leads to cancer. First and foremost, HPV in over 90% of cases clears up by itself. Okay.
Yeah. And okay, 90% it clears up by itself, but also the people that get cancer from HPV, it's like less than 0.5%.
STI that's very difficult to understand because it didn't exist when I was super young, but then suddenly they roll out this shot and they're like, yeah, everyone has this. And sometimes if you're a part of the 2% of people who it doesn't clear up with automatically, it might lead to cervical cancer. And I actually did the math on my Shot in the Dark series. And this is like one of the first episodes, which I'm so happy to tell you guys, Shot in the Dark is coming back tomorrow. It's one of the first things that I showed people is how they lied and how there has been no decrease in those cancers. And those cancers in general are extremely rare. And yet they were able to force this vaccine on first all women and then all men. Magically, they were like, actually, it could even help men. It is one of the most obvious examples of big pharma fraud. And so to hear her repeating these talking points as someone who was injured, I was so frustrated.
There it is. Hey, I could probably go 10 hours straight just on that one vaccine. All right. What's going on here? We got our boy
reducing population growth. That's the mortality.
Okay, so what did he say? We're trying to reduce the population growth. Oh, that's why he added a sterilization into the tetanus vaccine in Africa. Oh, okay. That the African government proved straight up. It's proof. It's fact that this isn't a conspiracy, you guys. Okay. And then look at just right from his own mouth at the World Economic Forum, the WEF, that literally has it in their mission statement to depopulate the earth. That the number one problem that we're facing today, scientists will tell you that overpopulation is the number one problem that we face today on Earth. And look, it's Bill Gates just propagating it. Like
mortality rates in developing countries, which then has this effect of reducing population growth. That's this big benefit that then makes everything like reducing population growth. That's this big benefit of reducing population growth. That's this big benefit. And then
it's a big benefit. Oh, he's let that slip quite a bit. Like, there's more
things that are, genetically modified organisms, and we're injecting them in little kids' arms. We just shoot them right into the vein. Genetically modified organisms, and we're injecting them in little kids' arms. We just shoot them right into the vein.
Tape 3 of the videotape deposition of Bill Gates on September.
During the 18-month trial, Gates gave hours of videotape testimony.
What were the non-Microsoft browsers that you were concerned about in January of 1996? That month. Yes, sir. And what about it? What non-Microsoft browsers were you concerned about in January of 1996? I don't know what you mean concerned. What is it about the word concerned that you don't understand?
What is this even about? I don't even know what's going on here.
I'm not sure what you mean by it.
Weird that they didn't. There's like he said the depopulation thing several other times. We'll find it. Whoopsie, a resurfaced video shows MSNBC Joe Scarborough expressing empathy for RFK Jr.'s belief that vaccines can cause autism. Oh, you see what the media does? The terrorist organization media, con artist, Marxist, lying, evil, tyrannical. Like I could go on and on. It's not, this isn't an overstatement, people. This isn't a matter of disagreement. It's just, I hope our eyes are being open to what's going on.
All that mercury was doing to kids. As it turns out, my son, born in 1991, has a slight form of autism called Asperger's. But it seems, and again, when I was practicing law, and also when I was in Congress, parents would constantly come to me, and they'd bring me videotapes of their children, and they were all around the age of my son or younger.
The generation,
something happened in 1989.
Exactly. The generation, what happened was the vaccine schedule was increased. We went up from receiving about 10 vaccines in our generation to these kids received 24 vaccines. And they all had this thimerosal in them, this mercury, and nobody bothered to do an analysis of what the cumulative impact of all that mercury was doing to kids. As it turns out, we are injecting our children with 400 times the amount of mercury that FDA or EPA considers safe. A child on his first day that he's born is injected with a hepatitis B shot. Under EPA guidelines, he would have to be 275 pounds to safely absorb that shot.
And yet we're just constantly pumping our kids with these vaccines.
Right, and what happened was that in 1988, 1 in every 2,500 American children had autism. Today, 1 in every 166 children have autism, and plus 1 in 6 children have other kinds of learning disorders, other kinds of neurological disorders, speech delay, language disorders, ADD, hyperactivity, that all seem to be connected, that are all connected, the science shows are all connected to autism.
You know, Bobby, what we've always found, you and I could debate 1,000 different issues, whether it's Terry Schiavo or the environment. I think would agree on the environment. But in this case, you've got the federal government coming in saying, well, there's no good science. And of course, in politics, science always gets diluted. Why hasn't the federal government stepped up and worked more? Because listen, Bobby, I can't prove it tonight. You can't prove it. But intuitively, you look at the spike, you look at what happened with the thimerosal, there is no doubt in my mind, maybe it's 2 years from now, maybe it's 5 years from now, maybe it's 10 years from now, we're going to find out that the thimerosal causes, in my opinion, autism.
You know what? The science is...
So was it, I think this was like in the early 90s. So just notice how RFK literally just sounds the same. He's literally saying the same thing from 30 years ago, from 30 or 40 years ago, however, whenever the hell that was, 30 some years ago. So that's like a good sign. Notice how many change, and it's okay to change your view, paradigm shifting things happen, but like, hello, oops. So that like stands out. He's been literally preaching the same message for decades. All right.
About vaccines, you say, let me ask you this about Big Pharma, and this is about vaccines. You say that the government regulators have been bought off by Big Pharma. I think that's what you're saying when you say that this entanglement has occurred. You said agency employees are actually getting royalties, getting payments on vaccines and drugs that they approve. Is that true?
Yes, there's a couple things happening. For example, the Moderna vaccine. NIH owns half of that vaccine, 50%. So the billions of dollars that vaccine makes, half of that goes to NIH, the agency, but there's also individuals, at least 4 and maybe 6 individuals who work for NIH who are high-level deputies under Anthony Fauci, who get to collect $150,000 a year forever, not just for their lives, but their children. As long as that mRNA technology is on the market, they're going to be making money from it.
Okay.
And that is a conflict.
Hang on a minute now, because I don't want to blow by this too fast. So the National Institute of Health is getting a kickback, a bribe, a royalty, a share, whatever you want to call it. Is this not a clear conflict of interest?
Yes.
That's what you're pointing out, right?
Yeah, it is. People are shocked.
Okay, why are you the only one talking about this?
If you talk about this kind of thing, you get censored on YouTube. You will not be allowed on the mainstream media to talk about these issues. It used to be that you could, and nowadays you cannot. With FDA, about 50% of FDA's budget comes from regulated industries, so mainly the pharmaceutical industries. You have agency capture on steroids. The principal objective of FDA today is to serve the mercantile interests of pharmaceutical companies. And that's why you see FDA not only approving all of these drugs that shouldn't be approved, but they also are, out to destroy things that are actually shown to be good for you, that do not make profits for the pharmaceutical companies.
Such as things like ivermectin, which we'll cover. That doesn't make them money, so they say it's misinformation to take horse dewormers. We got The View. Joe Rogan's out there believes in dragons and is taking horse dewormers. This is a ploy, people. It's intentional. It's psychological manipulation. It's indoctrination, right? So make America healthy again. Let's go. Right. So then we have the senators questioning them and literally just it's like their ass is on their face. Obvious. These guys are covering this up, that they're owned. The politicians are owned by, this is why politicians are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars when they're making 170 grand a year. All right. Like it's just obvious. So it's a truth serum. So I hope people are waking up. I hope Democrats in these states voting these dumbasses in, like Chuck Schumer and Shifty Shift and all these con artists. Wake the fuck up, people. Yeah. Bruno is really lighting up this chat. All right. So yeah, let's make America healthy again. Like you can't deny it. He's just the bomb. RFK, I'm not saying you got to agree with everything he says, but you can't really deny he's the guy for the job. Like this is what God put him on earth to do, is to be the Secretary of Human and Health Services under Donald Trump. There's no question about it. If you can't see it, senators, your ass is gone. It is a career ender. You are donezo. Take it to the bank. The people know you're done. You're gone. That includes you, Bernie Sanders. Unless you can figure out how to rig the election again on the next one, you're done. Unless you vote for RFK. Straight up.
That organ is coming from the reason why they use DNA from the cells of other humans and other animals in vaccines is to trigger an autoimmune reaction. Now I'm going to set this up for everybody.
I mean, I feel sick.
This is to make you aware. This is the autoimmune industry complex. Inject people without them asking or knowing DNA from other species and other humans into their body. You will wreck their immune system and create autoimmune diseases for life. Do you want to know how I know it?
No.
Real simply. Have you ever heard of a person getting an organ transplant?
Sure.
Yes.
Name an organ that they like to transplant.
Kidneys.
Kidneys are a good one. Yep. Kidneys, liver, hearts, right? You get all these, right? Lungs for pulmonary fibrosis. They have lots of organs they do transplants from. When a person you've ever known gets an organ transplant, that organ is coming from another human.
Yeah.
So they're finding someone who died or has sacrificed their own organ, and they're going to put that organ inside of your body. Let's give the kidney, for example. When they do that and they wake you up from the surgery, they then immediately prescribe to you 10 to 15 drugs for life that are called anti-rejection drugs.
Okay.
Your immune system's going to reject the organ and kill it. Why? Your immune system knows it ain't yours.
Foreign, yeah.
So it's going to go attack it. After it creates antibodies that totally destroy that organ, if you weren't on those drugs, that organ that you just received from somebody else has the DNA structure of kidneys. Guess what happens after it gets done attacking that kidney? It's going to be, those antibodies are floating around your body looking for what?
Kidneys?
Kidney cells, kidney tissue. They are going to then start attacking your kidneys, and you will develop autoimmunity of your kidneys, chronic kidney failure, and you will be on dialysis for life.
Jeez.
The body, we know, will reject and destroy any tissue that's foreign that isn't your DNA. This is a great design by God, by the way. Don't put other DNA in your body.
Right.
So now you put Cocker Spaniel DNA inside of a 6-month-old. You put hepatitis B inside of a 12-hour-old baby.
Yeah.
And you set them up for autoimmune diseases lifelong. This is why you get juvenile rheumatoid arthritis.
Okay, so are you guys following? So this could be wrong. Maybe his science is incorrect. Okay. But you know that there's like thousands of doctors that say the same thing. Should we have the discussion? If he's wrong, prove it. You got to prove it. Sorry, you have to prove it. You have to figure out how to communicate how he's wrong. I know that might be tough for some of you scientists that disagree with this message here. You're going to have the dialogue. The ship sailed. You can't just say, trust the science anymore. Nope. Sorry. There's thousands of scientists that I can play over and 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 over that disagree with your science. And so, wait. Oh, your science. You mean you're bought and owned by the people making the vaccines. Oh, nothing to see here. Nothing to question here.
Juvenile diabetes.
Yes.
SIDS. Why did you get all these conditions of autism? This is
juvenile diabetes. Nothing to see here that like it's been like 1,000% increase or more of juvenile diabetes. Huh. Sounds like a pretty valid hypothesis to me. Let's test it. Oh, wait, but they don't want it tested. Okay. Well, you know what? I'm just going to believe him instead of you that doesn't want to test it and debate it and have dialogue. Sorry.
So many more diseases malfunction. Like autoimmune diseases or something that you just not hear about. Now it's like everybody, it's common. You're everywhere.
Oh, everybody in the audiences, have you ever wondered why it is so many children and adults are allergic to eggs? 7 out of the 9 flu vaccines have what's called ovalbumin.
Okay, and it's not just allergies with eggs. There's also, it's not just allergic. Okay, there's also, you can go get it. It's called food sensitivity tests. And it's like considered, there are certain foods that you might have a pre-allergy to. It's like Not a full-blown allergy yet, but it's developing into a pre-allergy, and it can make you feel drained. It can make you feel bad. You don't have good energy and your gut health, and it's just bad for you. You know, some people, they can't really have eggs because they feel dead and drained. And you can't have what's the big one that nobody can have all the time? Hello, brain, work, gluten. You can't have gluten. Well, why is that? Why is all of a sudden gluten like this big problem? Well, maybe could it be from the food and the vaccines and all that? What, you know, why don't we take a look? Oh, you don't want to talk about it. That's conspiracy theory stuff. Okay, sorry. Nope, not going to work. I'm going to believe in this guy instead. Unless you can prove him wrong. Sorry.
Or by name, egg protein. Well, I looked that up. I wanted the world to see, why is there egg white in every one of these flu vaccines? Egg whites.
In the flu vaccine.
In the flu vaccine, 7 of the 9. So I looked it up. I wanted to know what eggs
It's
does
not
this
an
come
angel
from.
food cake.
I want to know what eggs, what egg whites from what animals are inside these flu vaccines. All right, so for the first 70 years of vaccine production, they were actually cultured in chicken eggs. They would actually inject. Judy Mikovits used to make them, vaccines at the NIH, injecting the substrate into chicken eggs to culture whatever it is they're trying to grow, that they then put in a syringe, inject inside of you. Any chicken egg protein they inject inside of you as a baby, you will develop lifelong egg allergies to. Just so you know, in the last 20 years, it's no longer chicken eggs.
What is it?
It's snake eggs.
Oh, you're kidding.
90% of all vaccines are manufactured in China, and look it up. There's documentaries about this all over. They are called Chinese snake villages, and they just culture snake eggs for the pharmaceutical giants in China to manufacture 90% of all of our vaccines that we receive in America.
What is the deal with snakes?
So chicken DNA, snake DNA. Do you want to know why there's so much autoimmune?
Now look, this could be a total conspiracy, but let's have the dialogue. Let's talk about it. Because if there's proof to what he's saying, all right, let's see it. Let's foster a culture of science. Wait. Foster a culture of science, which is proving and reproving and confirm and reconfirm. Right? That's what science is. But they don't want that. They're anti-science, literally.
Immunity, so many actual disease states, chronic illnesses in Americans. You're injecting foreign DNA that doesn't belong to you into you. And as long as you stay ignorant and blissfully happy to follow blindly the faith of your white coat authority figures, who don't know anything either, these little booklets will be very powerful. And I want everybody buying them and then giving them to their MDs.
Notice how he said white coat authority figures. It just comes right down to the same thing, the First Amendment. You don't silence doctors and scientists who have research on this. Get out of here.
So they can't answer your questions because none of them have a clue.
Can we get you back on when the book comes out?
You better believe it.
Cover this because
we're gonna do it for all vaccines. The flu one's gonna be first.
I don't want to do any more interviews. I'm done.
When they're running national days, weeks of it, and it's, everywhere you go, every billboard, Walgreens, CVS, get your flu shot.
I'm gonna buy one of these books for Travis Kelce and send him like a box of them.
No kidding.
Can I say one other thing before we go?
Of course.
Yeah, I can't be more sick and disturbed than I am now. So go ahead.
So my presentation here a few minutes ago was totally different than anything I've done. I decided to show the world who was the real target of the pandemic called COVID. So I put it up. The American Diabetes Association just published that 40% of all COVID-19 deaths in America were in diabetics only.
Yep.
That's the largest percentage of anybody who.
You know what the media was doing. This is a fact. And this was I'm speaking from 5 years ago, 4 years ago. There would be someone who died in a car crash or a motorcycle crash, and they checked his blood, and this guy had COVID, and they called it a COVID death. And then the hospital got extra money for calling it a COVID death. Nothing to see here. And I would expose this, and people would freak out at me on Facebook and censor me and misinformation. And so then they would come up with all their stats on the COVID deaths that still, by the way, was like less than 0.1% would die from COVID, even with counting motorcycle deaths and people that had diabetes, people that had cancer that got COVID, and call it a COVID death. Well, that's a little more complicated, right? And they did that to drive an agenda.
Who died from COVID are diabetics worldwide. So
they did it to drive the agenda of panic amongst the lunatic human beings of planet Earth, doing all kinds of crazy shit during COVID. And that was the biggest eye opener to me at how hopeless planet Earth is, with dumbass people who will literally get indoctrinated and be cult followers. And it was just insane. Indoctrinated by the media, indoctrinated by the health experts, and then demonize people who had other views and other takes and call them dangerous misinformation. We need to show the crazy shit Joe Biden was saying when he was president about this, literally essentially calling out for violence against those who weren't wearing masks. So we had people like your mask Nazis everywhere. Just insanity. And if you did this, you need to apologize and own it and wake up.
I put up on the screen, the American Diabetes Association admits that 40% of all COVID deaths came from diabetics. All right, so let's introduce you to American Diabetes Association's mission statement and how long they've been around.
How long?
Since 1939 is when they were founded. And their mission statement is, we provide research to manage, cure, and prevent diabetes. That's their mission statement. So I went like this. How are they doing after 84 years?
How many where were we at in 1939?
So we just finished 4 years, and almost half everybody that died were diabetics in America. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So how are they doing with their prevention and cure of diabetes? They've been researching for 84 years. I put up on the screen a chart that the American Diabetes Association shows that in 1980, 41 years later, after that organization was set up and collecting donations and research for diabetes to cure it and prevent it, I showed in 2010 they published on a bar graph that there was 5.5 million Americans with diabetes in 1980.
How many?
So could it be a valid explanation to say the WEF, the Black Rocks of the world that Bruno's talking about here, right? The Fidelities of the world, the WHO, the World Health Organization, the Bill Gates of the world, who literally in their mission statement want to depopulate the earth, like, and they're not, there's no bones about it, drastically depopulate the earth. Could it be possible that they're trying to make us sick with things like diabetes, and so that we're forced to rely on the pharmaceutical companies our whole life and aren't actually concerned about our health? Is that a stretch? They make billions on their vaccines, then they make billions and trillions on the pharmaceuticals for your whole life. They dumb you down. They make you dumber as well. They don't want, they control the schools and the universities, and the schools and the universities with, say, the Department of Education, which, by the way, is being called on to get rid of the Department of Education, which we've been calling on for years. It's corrupt. Does the Department of Education teach children how to critically think for themselves? Nope. It's the opposite. They want sheep who will just follow what they say, who don't question them. And whoever does question them, they demonize and censor their speech. And so they want to depopulate the earth. They're giving us these vaccines to make us sicker on purpose. So then we have to rely on their pharmaceuticals and their medications for a whole life in which they further enrich themselves. Is that out of the question here? Nope. Sorry. Nope.
There was 5.5 million
Okay.
Americans with diabetes in 1980.
Okay.
They show it all the way to 2010. 2010, it's 21 million Americans
What?
are diabetics. And then I showed what is it right now in 2023? It's actually 38.4 million now.
Okay, so the company that supposedly since the 1930s who are there to try and get rid of diabetes has been getting all billions of dollars, who the hell knows, trillions of dollars of research to help cure and get rid of and exterminate diabetes has only worsened by what was that? Like 8 times. There's 8 times more diabetes now. Nothing to see here. Don't question the science. Don't question the science. You terrorists of misinformation. You don't question the WHO, right? We don't question that. Okay, I see. All right. I see what y'all are doing. So you can call this guy a conspiracy theorist all you want. Guess what? I'm not going to believe you unless you are real happy and glad and open to have endless open dialogue to prove your facts and your science, and then have it be questioned again so you can reprove it again, and then have it be questioned again so you can keep reproving it nonstop for the rest of time. Period. And if you don't want to do that, see ya. Bye-bye. Because that means you're against science. You're actually anti-science. You realize that. You are anti-science if you don't want your science to ever be questioned. You realize that. All you climate change advocates, if you don't want that shit questioned, you don't want dialogue, you don't want to entertain the possibility that you're wrong, that your science is wrong, sorry, you're anti-scientist. You're anti-science. That's called indoctrination. That's called a cult. Sorry. Maybe global warming is this huge existential problem. Okay. Let's talk about it. All right. Let's talk about it. No one's trying to censor you from making your science proved and known. No, we're all ears. No, but all you're able to do is demonize Leonardo DiCaprio, the climate change denier comments. Sorry, not going to work. Zero effectiveness anymore. Your little cult is gone, donezo. The people in the world are opening their eyes. They're waking up. It's not going to work anymore.
That's almost double in 13 years.
Yeah.
The whole chart just goes straight like this. So I showed the numbers and highlighted. I said, this is an organization committed for 84 years to prevent and cure diabetes. Are they working? Are they figuring it out?
Yes.
And then I showed that the World Health Organization just published that in the next 27 years, they expect 1.31 billion people on Earth to be diabetic, which these people didn't know it. And y'all don't either. Right now, there's only 500 million. They expect 2.5 times that in the next 27 years.
Nothing to see here. I mean, that doesn't go along with their agenda, to depopulate the earth or anything. That's science. Well done, World Health Organization that has it right at the top of their agenda to censor speech. The fact checkers are real important to them. Yep. Nothing to see here. That's why do you guys realize how insane it is that Donald Trump on his first day in office signed an executive order to get the hell out of the World Health Organization? no one even believe, like, it's so unbelievable that he actually did that. It's mind-blowing, you guys. He's throat punching all the global Marxist powers that be, the Illuminati, the deep state. What he is literally throwing them the hell out. He's getting them. He's all the FBI bullshit, all the Treasury, the Department of Treasury. It's right now. I've got 100 freaking tweets that we can look at of more fraud being exposed in our government. Our taxpayer dollars are going to these motherfuckers just so they can kill us and make us unhealthy and rely on them. I mean, it's the Communist Manifesto. They have the power. They thought they had the power. They had it in the bag. They control the speech with the news media. And then Donald Trump just nuked them, has literally just nuked them. And they're just like, what the hell just happened? And so they got to resort to things like World War III, release their pandemic, Code Red. So just get ready. Get ready. Cause chaos. Create chaos. Divide, conquer. Control the news. Create panic. Create chaos. I'm ready for anything. They're going to try and poison our water. They're going to try and cut out our electricity. They're going to try and create World War III. They're perfectly okay with nuking the world. You know that, right? They're perfectly okay with the world just being nuked. They're well prepared for it. They have endless underground bunkers that can sustain them for decades. The government does too. This is well known. They're perfectly okay to keep their power if it comes to World War III and nuclear war. Just so you guys know, they're perfectly okay with that. With pandemics that are actual pandemics just killing off the world and creating mass chaos. Be ready for this. Radar's up. We're not unaware of their schemes. All right.
So I went like this. All right, so you're an organization. For 84 years, you've been researching and creating products to cure and prevent diabetes. How well are they doing after 84 years? And I wanted to know, since 2010 to now, 2023, how much money has been donated to the American Diabetes Association?
That's a great question.
Suck at curing diabetes. That's exactly what I put on the screen. How much have they been given to suck 100% at preventing COVID or preventing diabetes? So I put up every single Form 990 from the IRS, which they declare all revenue given to the American Diabetes Association every year since 2010. And I showed every single one of them and highlighted in red. Look at the red square. This is the amount of money donated every year. 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. And then I showed the total.
And
the total is $2.5 billion has given to the American Diabetes Association.
Oh my God.
In the same time frame, they have doubled the amount of diabetes in this country.
Yep. Okay. And that's just the money that we know of. What about all the other gazillion shell companies and shell corporations and corrupt money given from the government that right now Elon Musk is exposing to us? He's exposing this. Nothing to see here.
There's not a lot of, you can be an NFL coach, not winning.
Guys, this is not conspiracy theory. Wake up
game every year and keep getting raises.
And then I showed them the American Diabetes in 1939 said they're committed to preventing and curing diabetes. How close are they? And I put up the American Diabetes Association's website and it says, what is a cause of diabetes and the cure? It actually says there is no known cure for diabetes, period. I showed them the whole world. I said, wait a minute. We've been giving this organization for 84 years, billions of dollars to solve one problem. And then I said on the screen, how many of you do you think would be paid by your employer for 84 years to solve a problem specific to your audiences and customer base and you never came up with a solution for 84 years, would you still have a job?
No way.
And they all said, you would be fired. That was the
Yeah,
first thing on my screen.
absolutely.
Nope, you would be fired. You wouldn't have a job. So this is when I showed them how much money they've been given. Then I showed a list. Currently, the medical profession actually has a list of all incurable diseases they know of. And on that list is cancer. So my last part of this presentation was, well, if cancer is still not curable, how long has the American Cancer Society been investing donations and research to look for a cure for cancer?
What year?
They started in 1913.
Really?
And then I showed just the last 3 years worth of donations to the American Cancer Society, who publishes There Is No Cure for Cancer. I just showed them. It is $4.5 billion have been donated in the last 3 years alone to a cancer organization who has no effing clue yet how to solve the problem. They've created an organization to research. So I set up on the screen, and everybody watching at home, please, for the love of God, stop giving money to the American Cancer Society, American Diabetes Association, any medical foundation. There is no known published cures of any of them. And
so listen, guys, the EU is very tied in with the WHO, with the American, everything he's saying, they're all tied together with Bill Gates, Anthony Fauci, and Trump is calling it out. EU is like Hitler, Stalin, Lenin, and Chow all combined into one 2.0 Nazi crazy lunatic motherfuckers. The EU is demonic. They are worse than Hitler himself. Listen, and Trump's calling it out. And so it just came out. Trump, you know, European Union warns it will respond if Trump imposes tariffs. Oh, okay. All right. It's on. Like this is like dream come true, people. This is literally rooting out the cancer and terrorism in our world today. The powers that be. The EU is right in the heart of it all.
we're giving them billions of dollars, and they are continuing to allow the problem they're professing to be looking for a fix for. They're not interested in that. So I put up on the screen, you want to donate your money to somebody? Donate to the Healing for the Ages group. That's 4 doctors who in 2024 will start doing research studies and proving to you we can reverse diabetes and cancer. And it's not going to cost billions of dollars. You just tell all your corporations and yourself, you want to make donations? Go to this donate button at healingfortheages.com. We, in January, are all meeting in Arizona to discuss the research studies we're going to do in preparation for our September conference. And we're going to bring those people up that we help cure and reverse diabetes, cancer, autoimmune disease, you name it. Watch. We need funding. They do not need funding.
Yes.
That's right.
My last slide was Albert Einstein said, doing the same thing over and over and over, expecting a different result is insanity. It's insane to give these companies any more donations or money.
Yeah.
When in 84 years and 113 years later, there's zero solutions for it.
Such a great point. Okay, so you go to healingfortheages.com, donate there.
There's a donate button at the top.
If
Just donate.
you want to learn more about the flu shot, go to
The drartistshow.com.
Artistshow.com. DR though. Drartistshow.com.
We'll put the links to that.
They just say the flu, you know, it just constantly mutates, and I'm sure there's truth to that. So we got to get the damn flu shot every year. In fact, we need to get it we need to get it every month, guys. I think we got to get these flu shots. It just keeps mutating. So all the gazillion mutations, you know what? There's like thousands of flus out there of different strands of flus. So I think actually we need to get like thousands of flu shots. And then next year, there'll be thousands more of flu strands. And so we actually, guys, we just need to go get a vaccine every single day. In fact, how about this? Why don't we just in our schools set up doctors' offices to give the morning and the afternoon vaccinations for our children? You know, why don't we do that? Because I mean, that's just the flu we're talking about. Our kids need like thousands of vaccines just for the flu. Okay. What about the bat virus that's going around now, and SARS. Basically, we just need like a vaccine. The more I think about it, we need to have our vaccines every hour. Let's get a new vaccine every hour to protect us. It's just like there's literally no end to this insanity. So guess what? People's eyes are being opened. Big time. Okay. mRNA injections.
The injected
all being exposed.
Pfizer was served its due at their main corporate headquarters. The Unjected podcast has taken the bull by the horns. They and others behind the cause known as Team Humanity have filed a landmark federal lawsuit in the United States District Court in Galveston, Texas, naming names including the Biden-Harris administration, the state of Hawaii, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, the CDC, the NIH, FDA, EPA, NIAID, FEMA, the World Health Organization, the DOD, DOJ, FBI, DHS, U.S. Air Force, Space Force, the FAA, and all commercial airlines.
Pfizer, from their internal documents, delayed reporting the deaths of 8 subjects, people who died with COVID who were vaccinated. And they delayed reporting it in spite of their own protocols that said they had to report deaths immediately, so that they could misinform the FDA in order to get the emergency use authorization that allowed the rollout of the vaccine that we all know about.
Okay, well, this is us serving Pfizer Corporation.
No, you can leave
No,
sir,
you
can't security and can leave it.
That's all we're served. You've been served. Pfizer, you've been served.
The lowest risk for getting COVID is if you've had 0 vaccines. As you add vaccines, your risk to get COVID goes up. I've never seen a vaccine like this. That's not the basis of vaccines. They shouldn't have what we would call negative efficacy. That is a peer-reviewed, beautiful study from Cleveland Clinic, completely ignored.
A peer-reviewed study from you actually have a larger chance to get COVID if you got the vaccine. You know what? That peer-reviewed study, we just need to throw that one out. Nothing to see there.
What's up, everybody? We're in Princeton, New Jersey, and we are here at the corporate headquarters of Moderna, serving legal paperwork. Let's do it. Hi there. So we were with Team Humanity. We needed to serve some legal paperwork to somebody that works at Moderna.
Okay, you guys are recording?
Yeah.
You guys, this is dangerous. This is telling people that if you get vaccines, you're going to die, and it's dangerous. So let's censor them. That's literally been the mindset of billions of people on planet Earth. Does that alarm you at all? At all? A little bit? When I hear somebody say my trust in humanity, no, sorry. I've got 0 trust in humanity. It is like by the grace of God, we're even still here because humanity's absolute insanity. Well, let's completely demonize anyone who questions vaccines as terrorists. How did people get so duped into this thought process? Just let it sink in, people. Let it sink in. I'm not even saying they're right. Because what the hell do I know about vaccines and all this shit? Diseases. But I do know this. They got shit to hide. They're trying to dismiss science. They're dismissing scientists. Doctors buy in droves. They're removing people's licenses. Doctors are too damn scared to even talk about this. They won't even talk about it because the possibility that their license could get revoked. Okay, that has to be dealt with. And anybody revoking licenses, get them out of here. Revoke their license. Get them out of here. You don't do that. Sorry. Nope, you don't do that. We're not going to fall for your bullshit anymore. Thank you, Elon, for allowing free speech, for allowing science to be questioned, let alone tested and examined and debated. Hello? 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 Hello?
You guys have to step outside. You can't record it.
Okay. I mean, I'd rather have it on film than we're handing it to somebody, and they can say, turn off the camera. We can say, how about you stop murdering 100 million people, motherfucker. It's your legal obligation to take it like this.
Yeah, by the way, I think somewhere we might come across this here because literally I can just show endless content on this for 24 hours straight. One of the apparent life insurance actuarials had it at 30 million people have died from the vaccine. That's interesting. That's rubber meet the road type of stuff there.
This is technically obstruction of justice right here. So we're just going to leave it, and I suggest you guys take it.
There has been enough cases of people who have had the vaccine, received the vaccine,
and then suffered a stroke. Good afternoon. I have some legal paperwork here that we need to hand to somebody at Johnson & Johnson.
Okay, have a seat, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. You have been served, Johnson & Johnson. You have been served for crimes against humanity. So we just have some legal paperwork that we need to drop off, please?
legal paperwork.
Yes, we
For
Merck. Just it has to be any employee at Merck can accept it. You just got murked.
Bill Gates, who was overseeing this situation, made a 1.1 million shares of BioNTech vaccine, which later became the Pfizer vaccine. He then sold that, almost all that stock, 87%. 2 years later, at a $242 million profit. And a week after that, he publicly announced the vaccine didn't work.
Okay, did you guys hear that? Bill Gates had stock in this vaccine, bought it, and then sold it 2 years later, made a $242 million profit, $250 million profit, and then a week later announced that the vaccine didn't work. Nothing to see here.
And don't escape.
Hey, what's up? We're the World Health Organization.
And again, maybe that's not true. Maybe that's false. Maybe he didn't do that. Well, okay. Let's talk about it. Does the news media like to talk about these things and discuss and prove the facts and hash this out? Nope. Does the World Health Organization, like that he's at right now, do they like to conduct constructive, healthy criticism? Like, are they promoting dialogue about this and debate, healthy debate and science and testing? Do they like to be questioned? You're going against the science. The science. You know what? That's like a cliche now to say the science says otherwise. Oh, does it? Fuck off. That's what we got to say. Fuck off with your bullshit science. Here's what science says to do. Test and retest, confirm and reconfirm forever, and never stop questioning and re-question and test and confirm and test and retest and confirm and improve, make it better, be better. That's what science does. Science doesn't disprove shit. Science keeps getting disproven all throughout humanity and history. So let's set the record straight here, boys and girls. With science, you promote, you literally promote questioning, criticism, healthy debate. You promote it. That's science. Anything else, right out, that's like science 101. That's step number 1 in science. If you throw that out, guess what? You don't have science. You've got dictatorship. You've got corruption. You've got oligarchy. That much I know. I don't know if all this shit's true. I'm not a scientist. What the hell do I know? I do know this. Science 101 is you continue to test and retest hypotheses and theories and, and prove and disprove. That's science. Period. Somehow the universities have gone away from that.
World headquarters, baby.
When the next pandemic comes knocking, and it will.
And you know what their response to that is we don't block questioning, and we don't censor speech. Yeah, you do. It's just, that's exactly what you do. But they try and then act like they don't. No, we did all these tests and that they can just bullshit their way through. Nope, sorry. Here's what you've done. You've censored it. You've discredited just volumes and volumes and volumes of science research and doctors' research on every single thing you do, literally, including diabetes, cancer, vaccines, all of it. You are anti-science is what you are. So we got to go back to the drawing board and start all over, boys and girls. I mean, all of it's, sorry, you're out. We don't believe you.
We must be ready to answer decisively, collectively, and equitably.
Hello. My name's Scott. I just had some documents I had to sign. This is just some legal paperwork that we needed to hand off to somebody here at the World Health Organization.
I mean, she said she don't want it.
Okay, well, we'll take it then.
Okay.
Okay, so we have to literally just leave it. I just have to leave it here. Well, no, that's the thing, is that this is a legal proceeding that's already in the courts, and we are just notifying. So you've legally been notified is the thing. And so discarding that or throwing that away is considered obstruction of justice. All right, so there you go. So the World Health Organization, you saw it, they refused to take our summons. This gentleman who we met in the mailroom says, you can get a photo of them. That lady obviously works at the World Health Organization, and they're talking about it. And so they've accepted it.
To join the lawsuit and find out more, simply go to humanitysuit.com. Again, that is humanitysuit.com. John Baum reporting for InfoWars.
Yep. There's a lot of that. Okay. What do we got here?
Parents that stepped up. How many children or people are totally unvaccinated? Is that where do you find? Is it just the parents that stepped up and said? I would think that's a very small percentage, because so many of us blindly followed, the recommendations to vaccinate children.
Yeah, it's less than 1% of the public. So the Amish are a perfect example of a large group of people who are largely unvaccinated. And there's we can't find an autistic kid who was unvaccinated. It's very, very rare in the Amish community, very, very rare. You won't find kids with ADD, with autoimmune disease, with panda pans, with epilepsy. You just don't find any of these chronic diseases in the Amish. And the U.S. government has been studying the Amish for decades, but there's never been a report out to the public. The reason, of course, is it would show that, if you don't follow our guidelines, you're going to end up healthier. That's why there's no report after decades of studying the Amish. There's no report, because the report would be devastating to the narrative. It would show that the CDC has been harming the public for decades.
The CDC has been harming the people for decades and saying nothing. They did finally respond about the Amish study, and they came out with highly questionable shit. Well, at best, highly questionable responses back about Amish autism and diabetes, epilepsy, all that. So the CDC is being exposed, people, straight up. They want the power. They want to control the information. And if you don't agree with them and you're a doctor, you lose your license. Nothing to see there, right?
And saying nothing and burying all the data.
Yep. Shout out to Restricted Daily and the Vigilant Fox, baby. Let's go. Yeah. But before COVID-19, the nurses shamed us a lot about refusing. Yep, that's right. After COVID-19, we were like, no thanks. And they, I'm not sure. The V's, the vaccines. Interesting. I just remember being canceled completely for even just questioning the vaccines. Yeah. All right. We could go on and on for days.
Starting to feel
You ready?
nauseous. Colton was a 13-year-old healthy, strong boy. He loved anything that has to do with an adrenaline rush. Motocross was his passion. We went to the doctor's office and the doctor says, hey, he's the age that you should get the HPV vaccine. I said, okay. So he was administered the vaccine, and on the third round, 2 weeks after, he started having a really bad neck ache. And then this is the last day he got to ride that big boy bike. And that day he came home, he was pale, starting to feel nauseous, really sore neck. He didn't feel good. He went to bed, and the next day I checked on him. He still didn't want to get out of bed. I just thought, man, you're just really weak and exhausted. And that evening, when he sat.
Now, it's true that they might be just trying to win a lawsuit and it was something else besides the vaccine. That's a valid point. The problem is it's not open for discussion, and there's like a zillion people that with the same thing, a zillion different testimonies just like this one that we've been hearing about for decades, by the way, decades, and it's only worsening. Like Candace said, she literally got the vaccine and then immediately had an epileptic moment. There's like a gazillion people that have the same story. All right. So it's not, if the answer that comes back is nothing to see here, sorry, not going to work.
Up to take a drink of water. He said, Mom, can you give that to me in my left hand? I can't use my right arm very good. It's weak. And he tried to lift up, and all of a sudden he just flopped back, and his head just hit the pillow, and I went, Colton, are you going paralyzed? They immediately took him down to Primary Children's Hospital in Salt Lake. When the doctor came out and asked me questions, they said, well, has he been sick? Has he had any changes or anything? I said, no, he hasn't been sick. He had the HPV vaccine on February 1st, and they went, oh, well, we'll be reporting that to VARS, and they did.
I did do a lot of sports. It was my favorite. But now I have to sit on the sideline, just watch everybody. I'm angry that they're still giving out vaccines. They don't care that people are getting hurt.
Mm-hmm.
It's a joke. You gotta do your research. You can't just trust a doctor anymore.
Yep. Oh, he died. He passed away.
Fortunately, we lost Colton in 2018 when he took his own life. I think he felt like it was a burden on his family. It was unfortunate. But his story has forever stayed on my heart. And I know this is difficult, especially for all of you reporters right now. I know what's going on inside of you. I worked this.
All right. I'm not kidding, people. Like, we can go hours and days and weeks and months of endless testimonies of the same. And so anybody that wants to say the science is proven, the science is final, here's what we have to say back. Fuck off. Get the hell, you're out of here. You're done. See ya. Nope. It's not going to work anymore. Nope. Sorry. And so any senator that peddled the same bullshit we've been hearing years, we know what's going on here. We know that, oh, we can actually just look and see that you're owned by the pharmaceutical companies. Bernie, people, wake up, wake up.
CBS, I get it. You're saying to yourself, well, I mean, it's rare. It's rare when that happens. I mean, okay, I suppose that does happen. I mean, his own doctors wrote it down. They knew it was the HPV vaccine. But you see, I toured the country and did thousands of interviews like that. Thousands. I drove around in a bus with a team of people that said vax on the side of it, and thousands signed their names of injury, autistic children, you name it. Sure, you can sit here, and I know you're trying to say to yourself, but I've been told the vaccines don't do that. That injuries are really rare. Well, I just want to ask you really quickly, just because it's rare, does that mean they deserve it? I mean, do we not study rare cancers in children? Do we not study rare diseases all around the world? Well, only a few kids are suffering from it, so just let them die. And then think about this. This isn't a disease. These are perfectly healthy children that were forced to take a product in order to go to school. And somehow you're making it okay that on a rare occasion, they are paralyzed or they are killed or they have a brain swelling incident.
We're just going to keep going through these, guys.
No, I want him to.
First, on vaccines, do you want RFK Jr. to revoke any vaccines?
No, I want him to come back with a report as to what he thinks. We're going to find out a lot. We're doing two things. We're going to have tremendous cost savings will come out of this. That's a minimum. And we're also going to have, and I think, very serious discussions about certain things, whether it's pesticides. Europe doesn't use pesticides, and yet they have a.
Oh my God! Wait, what? You mean we're going to have to like talk about this and have conversations about this? Oh, but what do you hear in the media? What is the media reporting? He's anti-vax. I mean, just endless nonsense because the media is a terrorist organization. The media, the mainstream media, are terrorist organizations on every level, on every front. And thank God enough people are opening their eyes to that. They are provokers of hate, of violence. They are racist. They promote racism outright. The universities are they're a cult, creating psychos in our youngest and most vulnerable. They are creating very committed, very dedicated cult followers to their agenda. They're Marxists, globalists, anti-American, racism, racist, anti-white agenda. Straight up.
Better mortality rate than we do. They don't use pesticides. In fact, they use it as an excuse not to take our farm product. We spend billions and billions of dollars on pesticides, and something bad's happening. Again, you take a look at autism. today versus 20, 25 years ago, it's like not even believable. So we're going to have reports. No, nothing's going to happen very quickly. I think you're going to find that Bobby he's a very rational guy. I found him to be very rational.
So all he's saying, like we all want, is the truth exposed. Dialogue, science to actually be science, which means questioning, proving, reproving, testing, reproving, testing forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And we're always going to be testing and proving. Period. So we're going to be covering Robert F. Kennedy's hearing on Tuesday morning, and these senators who are bought and owned by the pharmaceutical companies who are already right before our eyes all day, every day, getting exposed of endless corruption of where our tax dollars are going. Thank you, Elon.
No, nothing. You're not going to lose the polio vaccine. That's not going to happen. I saw what happened with the polio. I have.
So, all right. All right. Tucker is horrified to learn how aborted fetal tissue is used in the development of some vaccines. Okay. And that's a 5-minute long video that's well worth the watch. Aborted babies are very much used in the development of vaccines. Okay. Yeah. Follow the money. Okay.
To make a public.
Holy shit, check this video out.
Linda Pino. I am here primarily today to make a public confession. In the spring of 1987, as a physician, I denied a man a necessary operation that would have saved his life and thus caused his death. No person and no group has held me accountable for this, because in fact what I did was I saved a company $500,000 for this. And furthermore, this particular act secured my reputation as a good medical director, and it ensured my continued advancement in the healthcare field. I went from making a few $100s a week as a medical reviewer to an escalating 6-figure income as a physician executive. In all my work, I had one primary duty, and that was to use my medical expertise for the financial benefit of the organization for which I worked. And I was told repeatedly that I was not denying care, I was simply denying payment. I know how managed care maims and kills patients. So I'm here to tell you about the dirty work of managed care. And I'm haunted by the thousands of pieces of paper in which I have written that deadly word, denied. Thank you.
That is so fucking crazy. And that's one person. I bet that's happened to hundreds of doctors, physicians.
Yeah.
Wild.
We can go on forever, guys. Dr. David E. Martin calls for the total destruction of the World Health Organization for crimes against humanity and bioterrorism. This one is really good. We're not going to watch the whole thing.
The rest of humanity. A very small number of criminal industrial conspirators decided to subordinate the entirety of the human population for the purpose of their sinister plans to enrich themselves while impoverishing and killing the rest of humanity. And I'm done being polite. We've long passed polite. When the words acceptable death rate become part of an industrial norm, we have lost the plot of humanity. And that's not my words. Those were the words of the World Health Organization and of Pfizer and of Moderna when they were given the authorization to begin the process of killing human beings in the interest of advancing their goals. Next slide. And I'm also not going to sugarcoat this. This is a criminal cartel. We are acting as though there's some sort of redeemable quality somewhere in some esoteric layer that somehow or another the World Health Organization must have some salutatory benefit. Well, I'm going to tell you, since its formation in the 1940s, the World Health Organization has been nothing more than a criminal cartel that has a sole and singular intent. And I will show you the document that proves what I'm saying. This is not an allegation. This is actually provable by their own words in their own hand. And they use a four-step process to execute every one of their nefarious plans. They begin by planning an exercise, then they go to the business of funding that exercise, then they create the rationale for the thing that they're going to do, and then they deploy and profit from it. And in violation of 15 U.S. Code Section 19, which for those of you listening, coincidentally started with the Clayton Act in the same year that the World Health Organization in the United States, 1913, the same year the World Health Organization's progenitors also started. So I find it fascinating that we passed the Clayton Act in 1913, and we set in motion 110 years ago the criminal conspiracy, which we now call the World Health Organization, 110 years later. And in violation of TIFU, or TEFU, I don't even know how to say it, the TFEU, the treaty allegedly for the functioning of the European Union, which I think needs to now be called the Treaty for the Dysfunctional European Cabal. Article 101 unambiguously lays out the conditions that this was never a public health anything. It was racketeering for the purpose of instilling terror to adapt the behavior of a population, period. That's what it was. That's what it always was. And we can come up with every theoretical argument we want to make about things, but the problem, even with the theory that we had an outbreak of something, is falsifiable for the data from Zurich that shows us that in the year of the death pandemic of the globe, life insurance companies paid $30 billion less in claims. Now, if there's a medical professional or a social professional or anybody else.
So wait, the year of the pandemic, the life insurance companies paid $30 billion less in claims? Yep.
Who wants to debate that we could develop a virus cunningly that could find out your bank account, your insurance policy statements, and whether you're paid up on your premiums, that's a big ask. It turns out that the data is unambiguous. We did not have a pandemic, we had genocide. And we need to call it what it is. Next slide. When I say we planned it, let's make sure we understand exactly the not so fine print of the fine print. And I want to call your attention first to the right-hand column of the slide. This is the 2011 data that the World Health Organization, the Wellcome Trust, PATH, and the Gates Foundation did on their wonderful worldwide program for a malaria vaccine for children under the age of 6 months of age. And in their clinical trial, it's helpful to point out that they murdered 66 children in the vaccine group and then cunningly used the term control for a control group in which they murdered 28 children. Now, the reason I said murdered and the reason why I use that term is because it's exactly what it was. Because it turns out that this control group was not a saline injection. It was not some sort of innocuous, innocent thing. It was actually a cocktail of other known pathogenic disease-carrying injections. The control group was known to kill people, and the experimental control group was actually theoretically maybe going to kill people. And what we did was we actually went ahead and murdered them all. And cunningly, under Article 5, Section 13, which I've put on this slide, I want you to understand why I said at its formation in 1947, when the WHO was funded and founded, it was funded and founded by people intent to commit a crime because of their own language. Section 13 of Article 5 ends with the following statement: immunity from personal arrest or detention, blah, 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 immunity from legal process of every kind. Now, if you didn't intend to commit a crime, why would you need to give yourself permanent and absolute immunity from every form of prosecution, and it's worse, even investigation for prosecution of every kind? People sit there and pretend, well, that's like diplomatic immunity. Do you realize this isn't even meeting the standard of diplomatic immunity? This is a criminal organization who set in motion their own law to protect themselves against crimes they knew they were going to commit. And when I say they knew they were going to commit, I mean they knew it. Because their first director general, none other than Dr. René Sand, who happened to be in the hospitality of the Germans in Dachau in 1940 earlier, in 1947, mysteriously, with the largesse of the Rockefeller Foundation, was nominated to become the first director general of the WHO. And within 5 short years, René Sand decided to authorize the real purpose of the WHO in writing by then Director General Dr. Brock Chisholm. who advocated for population control as its primary objective. Does that sound like public health to anyone in this room? This is not public health.
Population control is the primary concern of the WHO. Straight up.
This is the advancement of the same genocidal program that began with the Carnegie Foundation's funding of the eugenics office at Cold Spring Labs in the United States in 1913 under the philanthropy of Andrew Carnegie. People, stop fooling yourself. We debate the leaves on the tree of what we call this pandemic thing, but we're not going to the root. This was an organized crime, racketeering entity set up to give itself first absolute immunity and then execute its plans to make sure it controls who lives, who dies, and who gets any chance at life. And if you think that I am somehow inflating numbers, let me be unambiguous. Under every treatment of tax provision, if I were to tell you that there is an 88% controlling interest of any organization, you might conclude that that actually aggregates into a controlling interest. And it turns out that if we look at the foundation donations to the World Health Organization, 88% of those come from a single organization, the Gates Foundation.
The Gates Foundation.
That constitutes a violation of every competitiveness law in Europe and every competitiveness law in the United States. This is absolutely not only not an independent charitably funded donation, but more importantly, under the tax laws on both sides of the Atlantic, this constitutes directed donations, which specifically are forbidden and do not have any place anywhere in the Charter of the World Health Organization or any of the UN-affiliated organizations. When I say this is a crime, I mean it's a tax crime, a racketeering crime, a money laundering crime, and now the crime of racketeering leading to murder and global terrorism.
And guess what? Elon Musk is going to expose a whole hell of a lot more here. It's already coming out. Doge, baby. It's all being exposed.
Next slide. I told you that the second thing after they plan it is they fund it. And why don't we use the criminals' language in their own words? Because it's the best way to say it. When they actually planned the release of the use of a biologically modified chimera associated with the model derived from coronavirus, they actually said the following: to sustain the funding base beyond the crisis, we need to increase the public understanding for the needful medical countermeasures, such as a pan-influenza or pan-coronavirus vaccine. Now, let me pause for just one moment and remind you that the crisis that they were speaking of was a crisis of diminishing funding. There was no health crisis. This was a crisis of their coffers were starting to run dry. That's the crisis. And let's read on. A key driver is the media, and the economics will follow the hype. We need to use that hype to our advantage to get to the real issues. Investors will respond if they see profit at the end of the process. That is officially the statement made by the conspiratorial cabal that by that time was the decade of vaccines put in motion in 2011 by the Global Preparedness Monitoring Board of the World Health Organization, and it was the funding base for Peter Daszak's partnership with the chimeric production of pathogens both in North Carolina and in Wuhan. So don't tell me that we have to do an investigation into where this came from. The criminals have admitted to it in their own words. Next slide. And now we get the fun one that no one in Congress is willing to address, which is the elephant in the room. On October the 21st, 2014, despite the multiple conversations between Senator Rand Paul and Anthony Fauci, where we've been told that Rand Paul has done everything he can to put Fauci on the ropes, he has had in his possession the letter that you see on the left. And it is the letter conveniently on NIAID letterhead sent to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, which unambiguously states that during the gain-of-function moratorium, which, by the way, if we use the word moratorium, feels like that means you're supposed to stop. Why don't we go ahead and look at two pieces of this letter? First, the second bullet under Project One, which, by the way, was not part of the original grant. This was to look at the novel functions of the virus pathogenesis in vivo. You know what that means? In living systems. The grant was supposed to be clinical simulations and models, but this grant was modified with this letter to say we were going to authorize gain-of-function research during the moratorium in living systems. And then we love the last paragraph of this letter, which conveniently says, as your grant is currently funded, this pause is voluntary. How many times have you met a voluntary moratorium. And the best part about it is that if we look at the very last line, or continue to conduct the applicable gain of function research until the end of the currently active budget period. But here comes the problem. You know who is supplying the budget? An indefinite term, unlimited amount contract from DARPA and from NIH. Isn't it convenient to have a perpetually funded project that needs to stop when the money runs out, when you find out that there is no point where the money runs out because there is no end to the thing that has no end? Unless you think that I'm making an allegation, which I'm not, I'm making an accusation. Let's be clear. And there's a big difference. I'm not alleging anything. They actually went to the trouble of telling us that it was going to be the Wuhan virus that was going to get us. As you see on the right-hand side of the screen, published in 2016, March 14th of 2016, the SARS-like Wuhan Institute of Virology Virus 1, and I quote, is poised for human emergence. Does that sound like we're just surprised that something in Wuhan went a little haywire in December of 2019? Or does it feel like we were told, look at Wuhan, and look at coronavirus, and look at what we've been doing to manipulate coronavirus in Wuhan and at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and lo and behold, we're going to go ahead and tell you that we're ready to release it in 2016. Next slide. We're almost done.
I don't think this video, there's I'll be showing it on the COVID video. I'm going to do a video just for COVID. And they literally just said, we're about to have an outbreak, a pandemic. We're about to have a pandemic outbreak. And they've been doing this since the 60s, the COVID stuff. I mean, it's developed in a lab by us. No, it's not a conspiracy. And guess what? Thanks to Trump, the CIA made the announcement. COVID was, in fact, created in a lab intentionally by us. Isn't that amazing? The truth is just coming out.
And then they created it. Now, all of you know that I am criticized globally for my use of the term biological warfare. I do that because I am credentialed to do that. I happen to be, for the United States government, in the early part of the 2000s and the latter part of the 90s, a person who was sent around the world to look at the proliferation of biological and chemical weapons. I'm acutely familiar with the definition of what a biological warfare agent is in the 18 U.S. Code, the criminal code of violations of biological and chemical weapons. And so my assessment is, in fact, professional and right. And the reason for that is I'm the one credentialed to make that determination for the United States government for many years. That's why I say it. But let's pretend for the moment that I'm just a nut job. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. So why don't we look at what the criminals said themselves, shall we? In 2005, at a conference sponsored by DARPA and the MITRE Corporation, Ralph Barrick, the architect of the lethal strand that has been injected into millions and billions of people's arms, that Ralph Barrick was sponsored to present the following, and let's go ahead and use his words, presentation: synthetic coronaviruses, biohacking, bio-warfare enabling technologies. Does that sound like a public health distribution program? Does that sound like something that is accidentally misinterpreted to mean something else?
They called it biowarfare in the year of 2005, that COVID was created. I mean, this has been long time known. We were screaming from the rooftops about this 5 years ago, people. And the Biden office and they, I guess 4 years ago, and they were censoring the speech. You dumb motherfuckers. Listen.
Or does biological warfare enabling technologies sound like not countermeasures or pandemic preparedness? It sounds to me like biological warfare enabling technologies. And the reason why I have that hunch is what followed was he received, next to his NIAID grants, non-competitive DARPA grants in matching funds for over $140 million of aggregate funding going into his and his related programs on synthetic biological warfare enabling technologies. So do I have a problem calling the injection a biological warfare enabling technology? Absolutely not, because that's what they called it. And we know that they knew they called it that on September 18th, 2019.
Because on September 18th, 2019, the racketeering, co-conspiring cabal of interlocking directorates, also known as the World Health Organization, said that they were going to conduct an experience for the world that was going to be a rapidly spreading pandemic due to a lethal respiratory pathogen. The lethality in that statement is the problem. They didn't say we're going to maybe get a little bit of sniffles going around. They said we were going to actually have the promulgation of a deadly agent. And the stated reason in September 2020, the progress indicator is that the world would accept a universal vaccine. Not, we'll look at other options of treatment. Not, we'll have a look at what might be early intervention, as Dr. McCullough has so clearly advocated for in many, many, many instances. Not that. We stated on September 18th, 2019, we were intending to kill. And we were intending to kill to create the fear that would drive people to accept something that without coercion, no one would have accepted. And that's published by the criminal racketeers. Next slide, and there's only 2 to go if you're following. Deploy and profit from it. We were told investors will respond if they see profit at the end of the process. And lo and behold, guess what they saw? Profit at the end of the process. 2022, $100 billion for Pfizer of public funds. Moderna, after lying to the Congress in October of 2020, when they were asked to actually verify whether NIAID was promoting an injection that would enrich NIAID, where Anthony Fauci and the entire team at NIH said that they had no financial interest in their recommendation, they receive a back payment royalty of $400 million for the first payment of the royalty. $400 million, more than any Institute of Health has ever received in a single payment for a single invention in the history of American medical research. And lo and behold, what do we receive after that? A request from the World Health Organization to expand its budget by 11% to make sure that the people who profited from it donate to it. And guess what they just did? They laundered the money right back. That's what they did. Next, and now you get the final slide. This is not a public health crime. This is actually not a constitutional crime. This is a criminal act done by a criminal institution established to enable criminal behavior since its foundation in 1947. That is what this is. And we should not be debating the merits of democracy or liberty or anything else, as irrational as that would be if we stood at a bank robbery and debated the merits of printing dollar bills. The problem is not the dollar bills, it's the bank robber. And the problem here is not health, and it's not public health, and it's not the suppression of information and the suppression of dissident views and the absolute unconscionable treatment of physicians around the world and academicians around the world who spoke out against this. That's not the crime. The crime is that we had criminal racketeers who conspired and developed a, quote, emergency. The same criminal racketeers planned, manufactured, and did all agency capture to make sure that you were told that you would use terms that they tell you to use: vaccine, face mask, health, social distancing, none of which had ordinary use definition. So we just used them. Criminal racketeers price fixed with interlocking directorates where known competitors came together and fixed prices in direct collusion, in violation of both European Union standards and in violation of both the Sherman and the Clayton Act in the United States. These were crimes. It was organized crime, and we should treat it as such. Criminal racketeers publicly lied under oath, and this resulted in the death and destruction of liberty, and most importantly, the death and destruction of the integrity of well-meaning people who sit here today doing everything they can within their power to try to treat the calamities created by this catastrophe.
And so when he says that, he's talking about the doctors. We could do a 50-hour long show just of how the doctors who spoke against this was treated. I mean, just literally 50 hours straight of doctor testimonies with the World Health cabal here. Yep.
I will not for a moment denigrate the multiple contributions of amazing academic and medical professionals who've tried desperately to step into the gap and stop the corrupt outcomes of these crimes. But I will, without doubt, say the following. Until we treat this as a criminal conspiracy of criminal racketeers resulting in global terrorism for the purpose of profiteering and murder, until we have that conversation, we're having the wrong conversation. because we are not here to debate the merits of a modified agreement for a criminal racketeering organization. We are here to end the criminal organization itself. This is my call to every single person on this planet. Don't just limit the power of the WHO. Destroy the WHO.
That is okay, but see, whenever this came out a few years ago, it was like, no, like we are done. It has completely fortified its power. There was no way we're getting out of this mess. The web runs so deep. Shell company, corruption. They literally own all the politicians in the entire world. I mean, it's just like, and then for Trump to come in and on day one, literally sign an executive order to get the hell out is crazy. You can't make this stuff up. It's like, wow. You guys, it's as epic as the Revolutionary War itself, or even actually, it's more epic. That's the times we're living in right now. It's just epic what Trump's doing. I still just can't even believe it. It's resurrected me back to life. I mean, I'm already dead. I'm a dead man, but it somehow has resurrected me. Man.
Thank you very much.
Crazy. And that video would probably have been better shown on the COVID, because I'm just going to really drive this home on just COVID by itself. Because this video is meant to just be big picture vaccines, but it just reveals the World Health Organization, the whole plan with vaccines.
You know where the WHO comes from? History of any vaccine saving so much as one life. In fact, they are bioweapons, and if you give them to a young child, and the younger the child, the more destructive they are to that immune system. And so it's a combination. It's a combination. If you know where the WHO comes from, I think I put it.
So I'm not saying I agree with necessarily that all of this is 100% factual. I'm just saying I can tell you right now. I can tell you right now. There is a mother shit ton of doctors, a mother load of doctors that actually think this and believe this and have the science and data and research that have been silenced, discredited, called conspiracy theorists. Sorry. We're going to go back to the drawing board. This is what's going to happen. Period. We're going back to the drawing board, and we're going to have endless dialogue, discussion, debate, back and forth, facts. There's going to be testing and retesting and diagnosing and retesting and confirm and reconfirm for the rest of time. No more of this garbage of just follow the science bullshit that you've been peddling. Sorry. We're done with that. Nope. Because it's anti-science to say that, and you're getting called out. Period. All right.
A note down here to where it comes from. But anyway, it was started up by Rockefeller. And what was Rockefeller into? Eugenics, euthanasia and eugenics. That was Rockefeller back in the 30s. They own the WHO. They own the NIH. So now the game is, these people aren't dying fast enough. We can make a lot more money, and they'll die a lot faster if we put out these vaccines and we use them on small children first. And then we make it compulsory. Then we can even say the kid can't go to school unless he's vaccinated.
Yep. And this is all right in the Communist Manifesto, by the way. They are purposefully trying to destabilize the family unit. It's right there. They don't teach critical thinking. They are trying to take your children away from you. That's the Communist Manifesto. That's Marxism. The state knows better than all these dumbass parents. This is the thought process. This is how they indoctrinate all the cult. This is how the universities create a cult, is all this horrific problems of misinformation out there. This is why we need to censor speech, and all these dumbass parents and crazy parents. The state knows better. So we need to give way more power to the state because we know better. And follow and obey, or else. It all just falls right in suit with all this.
Mandatory vaccines are murder in the first degree.
So literally, I've even dealt with this a little bit with my kids. Like, they mandated vaccines to go to school, and we're like, nope. And then fortunately, we live in an area where they're like, okay, yeah, you can just sign this exception. So it wasn't a big deal. But there are lots of school districts out there in the United States that literally mandate this shit. People, wake up.
That is what they are. You're invading a person's body with poisons, and the shock is horrible. In real life, you don't have to deal with 10 different germs, viruses at once, usually one at a time. But when they give a child a vaccine, or anybody, but children the worst, and that system is soaking up in an instant all these poisons I just listed here, plus a lot of viruses, they don't tell you what they are. The immune system, especially of a child, just throws up its hands in horror and says, I can't cope. This is too much. This is not like real life. They give you an overwhelming amount of poisons at one time.
Yep.
And that's what happens.
Yep. All right. Here's another good one.
Not only are vaccines unavoidably, it's not failure to vaccinate, it's failure of the vaccine. Not only are vaccines unavoidably unsafe, as the industry itself has claimed, they're also ineffective. And beyond ineffective, they can make you more susceptible to infection. In December of 2019, St. Teresa Catholic School in Houston, Texas, closed early for winter break because of an outbreak of whooping cough among the students and the staff. Now, when outbreaks like this happen, the disease industry is quick to claim failure to vaccinate as the cause. But here's the problem. 100% of the St. Teresa students had been vaccinated, 100%. In fact, studies show 5 years after completion of these vaccinations, children were up to 15 times more likely to get whooping cough compared to the first year after the series. So here's the bottom line. The vaccine itself appears to be driving an increased risk for whooping cough.
An increased risk. So debunked. Sorry, the fake news.
It's not failure to vaccinate.
They tried to cover that up. All right. We just shared the other day, like 2 days ago, how there is some outbreak of measles or polio or something in Kansas City. And guess what? The fake news media, the terrorist organization media said, they said, oh, it's because these right-wing extremist, crazy vaccine people like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., they're not getting vaccines. And now, oh my God, polio's coming back, vaccine, all these different sicknesses, now they're coming back because of failure to vaccinate. They forgot, they just left out an important point here. Kind of an important detail was that 100% of the measles outbreak or the polio outbreak from that very scenario was all from illegal immigrants. Oh, We just forgot that. We just forgot to mention that. This is the evil that we deal with. We could go on forever, guys. We can go on and on and on and on forever. So again, let me just say this. I don't know. What the hell do I know about vaccines? Zero. But have I not spent enough time to? We know what's going on here. You guys, we know what's going on here. The hearing, the Senate hearing of the confirmation of Robert F. Kennedy is Tuesday morning. You senators, listen up. This is a truth serum of who you really are. Are you bought out? Are you a shady politician who's owned by the powers that be, by the World Health Organization, which is 50 gazillion shell companies, through Pfizer, through Moderna, through Johnson & Johnson, that also goes through BlackRock and Fidelity and all your bullshit? Are you owned? Knowing that you're about to get exposed, listen, you're not going to get away with it anyways. So here's the truth. If you do not, every single senator that does not vote to approve Robert F. Kennedy, who's the no-brainer of no-brainers when it comes to the Secretary of Human Health Services, the absolute no-brainer of all no-brainers, that the United States of America voted Trump. Also, we didn't just vote for Trump. We voted for Robert F. Kennedy. We voted for Kash Patel. We voted for Tulsi Gabbard. Those three in particular is who we voted for. We voted for his cabinet. That's who we voted for. FYI. Anyone who doesn't vote for Robert F. Kennedy, who's the no-brainer of no-brainers, your career is over. Because look, you cannot peddle the same bullshit that you've been peddling. It's not going to work. So here it goes. The truth serum is right around the corner. We're going to see who you really are, Bernie Sanders. You've already made a complete and total utter ass of yourself when you question Bobby Kennedy. But look, you can redeem yourself by saying your bullshit, by just obvious, thanks to Elon and the First Amendment. The truth is out there. Y'all better vote yes, or your career is just done. Look, unless you figure out how to rig the next elections like you guys do, you're done, because America is on watch. And I mean laser watch. We have lasers right into your soul, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and all you Republicans. The Louisiana guy who's Mr. Pro-vaccine, who's apparently Louisiana senator. You don't even want to have a conversation about giving all these vaccines to babies. It's not even up for discussion, and it's dangerous misinformation. That's not going to work. When you say that, you are put on notice. Okay, what's this guy covering up? What's he hiding? You're already on notice just for how you behaved with Robert F. Kennedy. Listen, you're not getting away with it this time. Yeah, this is just amazing. The times that we live in, you guys. Speaking of, look at what we got here. Since Alex Jones, we got to hear about this 50 freaking times a day. All right, we're trying it out. We're one day in. All right. I will say this. I actually woke up this morning after only sleeping like 5 hours, feeling good. And, you know, we did have a little morning wood. I mean, raging hard on might be a stretch. Okay. But so, I don't know. Maybe this stuff's working. Maybe. We're trying this stuff out, Alex. You better not be bullshitting us, Alex Jones. Damn it. All right, I'm going to give you guys updates on these products. I also got some of his meat, whatever that they're selling, and I got something else coming. All right, we're trying it out, people. I'm going to give you guys updates. What a time we live in, people. What a time we live in. So I could literally end this stream. That's the vaccine stream. And just go live again right away and literally take 4 hours to cover the news that we've missed over the last 3.5 hours. Because I've got like 150 tweets of breaking news and this, that, and the other, and all kinds of shit going on, and all kinds of corruption being uncovered by Doge all the time. It's just what a time we live in. You guys, this is the fact that Trump is taking on the World Health Organization and all the powers that be and Bill Gates is literally more epic than the Revolutionary War itself. The left cabal of Marxism and tyranny and destruction is just gotten nuked. But be ready. Be ready. Be absolutely ready, you guys. They are ready. They're not just going to let go of their power and lay down. The EU, during this video, tweeted out sort of like a threat to Trump. Like, hey, if you tariff us, EU, we will retaliate. Oh. Just be ready for anything. Be ready for the George Soros. George Soros is the devil incarnate. Seriously. Like, literally, why isn't his ass in jail? He's not only terrorized America through Antifa and Black Lives Matter and just targeted people in the most evil, demonic way you can imagine. He's also done this shit in Europe. We will be exposing George Soros, and we'll be exposing even more Bill Gates shit in the future. Just be ready. Be careful. Be ready for anything. Be ready for stock market crashes because they're already shorting the stock market. Even Bill Gates is the Buffetts of the world, the Buffett cabal. You know, they're going to be trying to attack us and make Trump, demonize Trump in any way possible. They're going to be ready for a pandemic, be ready for World War III, be ready for terrorist attacks, be ready for riots and looting. We know it's coming. Just be ready for it. All right. Trump knows. Look, you know, one thing that's been crazy is how much Don Jr., Eric Trump, how Ivania Trump, his daughter, last time in the last election cycle, especially in 2016, but also like in 2020, they were super involved. Like And I was just blown away with them. Notice how they've stepped way back out of the picture. Have you noticed that? Why do you think that is? I can tell you. Because Trump knew he knows what he's up against. He knows. Trump knew. And he's like, look, guys, I got to protect my family here. I got to protect my family because it's war. And why don't you guys back off? Because I don't want you all to get assassinated. Because look, you know what we're living in right now? This is real life. You guys, this is real life V for Vendetta shit going on. This is real. This is real life V for Vendetta. We're actually living it. And this is more epic than the movie itself. You guys, this V for Vendetta movie that we're living in right now is more epic than the V for Vendetta movie itself.
Need to see to say, oh yeah, this
I'm
is
sorry,
real.
guys.
Look here, Joseph tweets this. So I want to clear something up about Melania. When I first saw her outfit, I wasn't on the V for Vendetta thing. I am now. I'm a foolish man, but I saw the error in my ways. Take a look. So this is her when she steps out of the vehicle. She's got the hat, low brim. Don't look at me. I look at you, right? And read this quote right here. To all you working at the FBI and the DOJ who are out of a job this weekend because you use lawfare, right, to go after President Trump and his family. This was Melania's Trump F around and find out outfit January 20. And you see these memes going back and forth. This is them. This is her, right? Now I get it. Now I understand. After 12 days in office, I've seen all I need to see to say, oh, yeah, this is real. Look here, Joseph tweets this out. Trump has taken out the FBI agents who raided Melania's underwear drawer, doctored evidence against him, and showed up at his Mar-a-Lago club with deadly fourth authorization, among other things. He's going to find them all and fire them. Don't you think they should? They literally raided her panty drawer. He's coming. He's going to find you in the DOJ. He's going to find you in the FBI, and he's going to fire you. This is just getting started. More and more and more are going to be shown the door very soon. DF tweets this out. Melania's outfit screams V for Vendetta, a symbol of defiance, power, an unwavering pursuit of truth, a message wrapped in elegance. I'm with you. And when I first saw this, I was on the fence. I'm not on the fence anymore. I'm completely with everyone out there who said this in the beginning. We see in the first 12 days, it's only going to continue to get better for us. If you knew this from the very beginning, you have to forgive us men. Sometimes we're really slow to catch on, but eventually we always get there. Tell me what you think. Put it in the comments down below and I'll see you in there.
Oh, baby. We're actually living in a more epic real life movie than the V for Vendetta movie itself. You cannot make this stuff up. He's just taken on all the powers that be, baby. Let's go. With the Dream Team cabinet, RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, and Kash Patel, especially those three. Pam Bondi, Pete Hegseth. Let's go. It's on. By the way, this was insane. Guess what happened yesterday? The View lost a lawsuit and had to pay Melania $900 million. I'm so blown away. The View lost a lawsuit against Melania for $900 million for slander and libel and making up malicious content and attacking her and just all that. $900 million. These fake news mafia news stations are actually losing these cases. That should tell us something. All right, guys. There is so much more. Like, there is just so much more. There's just so much going on. Wow. Love you guys. We'll be going again. We're going to talk about the California fires and the California corruption and how deep that goes. We're going to be talking about the coronavirus and the vaccine, specifically how it was created by us. We kind of just saw how we literally just, it's an inside job. And the hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars that was profited and all the scandal with COVID and the news media, the universities, the cabal, the leftists, globalist, Marxist cabal that we are V for Vendetta nuking. And it's got to go, it's got to die all the way. It's got to be cut all the way out because we cannot let them rebound. Like, no mercy. They all need to be in jail. This has got to be absolutely dealt with. Terrorism. This is terrorism. All right. Love you guys. Peace out.